What I'm talking about basically is this central space that is emergent. It's not Chinese, it's not English, it's sort of a combination of the two and something very different. Like we have a meeting and someone's like, 那我们今天 cover 了很多，然后你们要去跟那个部门 align 一下，然后我们就 circle back 吧。Like,
what the hell did you just say?
I said, like, covered a lot today.
Okay.
You need to go align with that department, and then we'll circle back to it. So like, these super business jargon words often don't make the switch to Chinese. Because in Chinese, they're not jargon.
Welcome to the Changing Scripts podcast, where we describe our language learning stories with the focus right now on Mandarin Chinese. My name is Stephanie, and I was an English language instructor for about 15 years, mostly in Asia. Also, I was learning how to read Mandarin Chinese through the HSK Chinese language test materials all of last year. I've been on a bit of a break from my own language learning, but I've added the language learning materials back to my day bag, so I think I could be studying again any day now. In fact, this podcast is part of the Changing Scripts PodTube experience, which is part podcast that you're listening to right now, part YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel is where I share my own slow but steady language learning progress. So if you'd like to know more about what I'm going to be doing or what I have done with the language, any challenges, questions, frustrations, and all that good stuff, come on over to the Changing Scripts YouTube channel. You could find the link in the show notes below, or you can just type in Changing Scripts with an S on YouTube, and boom, there we are. In the Changing Scripts podcast, we chat with people that grew up using Mandarin Chinese, as well as people like myself who learned it as an adult. In this particular episode, Joshua Ogden-Davis left graduate school in Texas, moved to China, and taught himself Chinese. He is now a Mandarin Chinese translator, does audio and video production in multiple languages, and is a puppeteer. In this Changing Scripts podcast episode, we dig into Josh's fuller language learning story, including the switch from English to Mandarin Chinese, as well as his experiences with Spanish, German, and English from his before time. We learned that although Josh was good at and liked learning aspects of grammatical knowledge growing up, it wasn't until he actually was able to simultaneously learn and immediately use Mandarin Chinese that he understood the importance of motivation, activation, and fluency over accuracy. Josh shares his hilarious Chinese language experience from taxi rides, where he was asked some pretty intimate details, and his own experience on a local Chinese dating show. He admits that he spends most of his time in the space in between English and Chinese languages, and ponders if that could be something called Third Culture Language, TCL. If you have any questions or comments while you're listening to this, feel free to contact me on any social media. My handle's the same everywhere. Steph Fuccio, STEPHFUCCIO. That is also my Gmail address, so you can email me if you prefer to do that. Now, let's meet Josh and get some more details about these language learning experiences. Thank you so much for joining us on Changing Scripts today, Josh. Can you give our listeners a little bit of an overview of your language story?
So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yay.
I'm from Texas. I don't sound like I'm from Texas unless I get angry, and that happens very rarely. So I came to China in 2010 after dropping out of graduate school. What? And I learned Spanish in school when I was a kid, like everyone in Texas does, and learned it incredibly poorly and can speak no Spanish to you at this time. After I came to China 9 years ago, I started learning Chinese because I thought, how much of a waste of space am I if I don't even give it a shot when I come here? And I am pretty much self-taught in Chinese, and after 9 years, I'm now a translator. I've translated a book. I've written a bilingual book. I do bilingual podcasts. I do a lot of translation work as for marketing, mostly for luxury cars.
Okay, so if I understand it correctly, the languages at your disposal at varying levels are English, Spanish, and Mandarin Chinese?
Un poquito. That's pretty much all I have, that one sentence.
But you can understand some.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we'll say those are the three. Well, let's start at your first language.
Hey.
What was your first language?
English.
All right.
I assume.
And I like diving into the brains of our former selves. So forgive me for these questions. But what do you remember about learning English?
Oh, that's very interesting. I
didn't pay him to say that.
I don't remember learning. I don't know if anyone ever remembers learning at the very early stages where you're still trying to figure out what are these sound shapes people make with their mouths, and then they get sandwiches from other people because they made the right mouth sounds. I don't remember that stage of language learning. I do remember feeling in grade school like I really enjoyed writing, partially because I was very easily distractible. I had a very active imagination, and I liked being able to put my imagination somewhere on a page. I have atrocious handwriting. That's language class. I think my earliest memories of language class is me hating writing with my hands because it never got better. My handwriting is still like a child. I play Dungeons and Dragons sometimes, and as part of the game, I'm usually the dungeon master. I have to write. Sometimes I write things as like, you find a note on the sidewalk that says this. Here's the note, and I give it to one player, and they had to decide whether or not to share it with the other people. And one of the times, one of the players said, "So I found a note on the sidewalk." And I think it was written by an insane person because the handwriting is incredibly childish, but they use big words. And I was like, oh, that was not part of the game. That's just my failures as an adult human. So I also, at the time when I was first learning grammar, I thought it was interesting the way that you could sort of break language down into sort of almost a quasi-mathematical concept, which I'm sure something people talk about on your podcast all the time.
No.
No?
No, I wish they would, though.
Oh, well, I'm here. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
I found that interesting, but not intriguing because I was still being graded on it, and I wanted to be sitting under a tree or fishing and not doing that.
Did you have to label like different parts of speech as a kid in school?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And I did find that intriguing, and I did find that I was good at that. It was that sort of systematic analysis, I'm sure there's a better word for it than that, was intriguing to me. And it was sort of felt like opening a secret door, because language is something that we use all the time for everything, but we never think about it. Yeah. Even now, Chinese people, I know I'm skipping ahead several years, Chinese people insist to me that Chinese has no grammar. And that's because I don't think they're taught grammar. Like when they have English class, they're taught this is English grammar, these are the parts of speech, this is how they fit together, but they're not taught Chinese that way.
Yeah.
And
I can see both sides of that. I don't think that, I think you're right that there is Chinese grammar, but it is significantly different
absolutely.
than English. Yeah.
It's significantly less complex.
Yeah.
But it's still there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I eat the sandwich and the sandwich eats me.
Yeah.
Are indistinguishable,
They're
right?
very different.
At the very base level, there are nouns, verbs, adjectives, and some of them, you can verb some nouns, you can't verb other nouns. Word order is important. You got to put the "l" in the right place. Yeah. There is Chinese grammar, but people insist to me that there's not, because unless someone sits you down in a room, sometimes with 20 or 30 of your peers when you're kids, and tells you, hey, this is grammar. This is what all these things are, and this is how they work together, and there's a right way and a wrong way. Unless someone tells you that, you would never think about it.
Yeah. No, that's true. And I've met a lot of English teachers abroad at different age levels from different countries who've had varying experiences learning grammar and English in their first language growing up. Like, I grew up in the 70s in the U.S., and we, for sure, labeled and underlined and circled and highlighted, and we had grammar tests.
Oh, yeah.
And my husband's just, 8 years younger than me, and he didn't do any of that. Like, we went out of fashion of doing that, apparently, in the U.S. after that. Or it was just a different state, because we have state-by-state education systems, which drives me nuts. But there are a lot of Brits that I met, British people, nationals.
It's okay. Brits is not a slur.
Brits, yeah, I know. Oh my God. That I've met who never studied grammar formally and learned it as they were teaching English overseas, and were like, "Oh, what's that verb tense, or what's that thing called?" Like, they'd see something in the book that they're supposed to teach that day, and have to go into a reference manual to see examples. They knew how to use things,
right,
but didn't formally learn it.
I do that because there are some. Like the basics. Oh, that's a noun. Got it. Adjective modifies the noun. Oh, adverb modifies the adjective. Got it. Even though I don't know how to pronounce modifies. But there are certain slightly more esoteric concepts that I constantly have to Google. Because I know what it is. I know how to use it. But I don't know the right name to put on it. So I do that. And I'm sure that someone told me that in grammar class at some point. Yeah. And it just...
Oh, causative passive. I spent a good 2 or 3 hours studying what it was when I was teaching in Kuala Lumpur. And and then finally went, oh, I actually use this. I know this. This is
so passive voice is like was hit, and causative would be hits. He hits, right?
Causative,
is that what we're talking about?
And I have to bring everything to its most common kind of base form for me to understand it, and then teach it to folks. And so it turned out to be I called it the rich person's form, where it's like, I had my hair done, I had my car washed.
Because someone else did it to you. I didn't have to do it.
So
that's fascinating.
So like a rich person would have lots of these things done. Whereas if you washed your car, you'd be like, I washed my car today. You're outside with the bucket kind of thing.
Oh, I never thought about it that way, because I when I was in graduate school and when I was teaching writing to undergraduates, one of the big things was do not ever, under any circumstance, ever use passive voice in academic writing. So unless like very specific circumstances. So to me, I guess I kind of was prejudiced against the passive voice.
Oh, yeah.
So to me, it was like good writing.
Yeah.
Almost like a prestige dialect of writing is one that eschews passive voice as much as possible. So to look at it from a societal standpoint, where only the privileged have the opportunity to use it as much, is a interesting
It's kind
contrast.
of funny, right? Yeah. But it's a specific part of passive voice.
Right.
Like you would also use like regular passive when the action's more important than the person. Like
right.
the purse was stolen.
Right.
Or when you don't know. So
Right.
it'd be like, or the cake was eaten.
Right, when you don't know who did it.
When you don't know who, or when it just wasn't that important, or when you didn't want to call someone out because you don't want them to lose face, you would use it, right?
Right.
But the causative passive was really funny to me because I was just like, man, I do use this, but not a whole lot because I was a broke English teacher and I was like, I had my hair done. No, I cut my hair. No, I had my nails done. No, I had my car washed. No car, still taking the subway. Like, let's go back in time. So you liked writing.
I did like writing.
But you didn't like your handwriting. What did you like about writing, and what did you write as a kid?
The thing that I really remember, the thing that really sticks out, and to this day I consider this to be my crowning achievement of my high school years, is in sophomore English. I burned out early. In sophomore English class, I wrote a parody of The Raven called The Rappa, where I just copied and pasted Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven into a WordPerfect document. We were probably on WordPerfect 1.0 at that time, running out of DOS or something. That's probably factually incorrect. And I tried to change it as little as possible. Change as few words, and if I have to change the structure as little as possible to change it to being about a guy who moved to the ghetto and a rapper barges into his apartment and is apparently hiding from the police or something.
Yeah.
And then I remember it being really fun at the beginning because the arcs could line up in a good way. But then we get to the end of The Raven where the surrealism sort of takes over and it fades to blurriness of insanity.
Yeah.
Well, that's an incredibly concise way of saying nothing. It became really impossible to do because it works when it's a raven who's a metaphor for death. It does not work if there's an actual rap artist sitting in your house, sort of like into the future. So that was a bit of a challenge, but I really did enjoy doing that. And that's my English teacher sent it out to the class because my English teacher went to my church, and so small town Texas, and so I had let her see it, and she thought it was great, and she shared it with the class. Blah blah blah. I enjoyed creating something unexpected and creating new experiences because everyone had read The Raven. Everyone was kind of bored with it because that's what you do when you're a kid in school. You're bored with what your teacher tells you to read. That's the status quo. And so I was able to take that and sort of create an unexpected experience out of that. And I really, really enjoyed doing that. And I think writing was the easiest way for me to do that. I was not good at improvising, even though I have a music degree. I do not improvise well in music. I was not good at improvising conversations. I was not good at finding things to talk about. I would not, I think, have been able to create that sort of unexpected experience for people if I had to do it on the fly. But when I was writing, I could think about it and find something cool and put it there, almost like a sculpture, and then make the thing, and then it existed outside of me. And people would think, like, oh, cool, like you did this thing, it's really cool. But I was like, you didn't see the hours where I did it bad. Yeah. You only saw the one I let you see, which is the one time I did it good.
I love that about writing so much.
Yeah.
I was probably the shyest, the most soft-spoken, the most self-conscious human being until my mid-20s, probably.
Yeah, we line up very well there.
What's that?
We line up very well.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah. And it was only after I moved thousands of miles away from everything that created me as a person. Sound familiar? That I was like, oh, okay. And even then, I still wrote a lot more than I talked.
Yeah.
I was still much more of an observer and a creator and an editor of my ideas for that reason. Yeah.
I've found that every very meaningful and deep friendship that I've had to date, there has been some extended period in that friendship where we corresponded over email.
Yeah.
And I had a girlfriend in college who, just after I met her, I went on a trip, and I had written lots of long blogs on that trip. And she had read them, and that kind of sparked her interest in me, and I was already interested in her. And then after the course of our relationship, close to the point where our relationship had run its course, she asked me, which one do you think is the closer to the real you, the one who writes or the one who talks? Like, do you think your spoken communication is more genuine or your written communication is more genuine? And that was right. Like, I'm looking at your facial expression.
Implication that one of them is not genuine.
I know. I think that question occurred to her because she felt that there was a huge difference between what I write and what I say.
Of course there is.
Right.
Oh my God, do people think they're supposed to be the same?
I think that, I don't know, maybe she did. I mean, this was years and years and years ago for me.
Yeah.
But I think that what that really drove home for me is, oh, wow, I must really present very differently.
Yeah.
Because everyone writes different than they talk, but if it's become difficult for this person who knows me so well to piece these two things together, if it feels like it's coming from two completely different places, then maybe I really am approaching writing in a very different way than I'm approaching speaking.
Yeah.
And that was back when, that was early 20s for me. So that was before I really feel like I became as socially competent. Is that is that too self-effacing? It's similar to what you said. Before I felt like I really became able to walk into a room and sort of express myself and meet people and not have that sort of social geekiness. But geekiness is not a bad thing. Not have the social awkwardness sort of preventing me from interacting in an improvisatory way with other human beings.
I'm impressed you got there. I'm still working on it.
I'm gonna give you a teaser. Learning a second language helped.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I know I'm fine one-on-one now. Like, I used to be more awkward one-on-one than in a group.
Oh, wow.
Especially because I used to use a lot of liquid courage when I was in my 20s and early 30s, also known as alcohol. And then I'd be able to talk to anyone, anywhere, any group, any small group, big group, fine. One-on-one, I learned, I'm cool, I'm good, I can do that. But groups, small groups especially, like small dinner groups, I'm total shit. Yeah. Total complete shit. Part of it is I like to listen more than speak when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And then I realized that might seem timid. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm not timid. I'm just curious.
Right. So, I know what I would say. I don't know what you would say. I'm much more interested in learning what you would say.
Exactly. So I'm kind of working on the small group experience now. There's never a there.
Yeah,
right?
this is sort of a tangent, but it's connected. And I've mentioned Dungeons and Dragons. That's one of the reasons I started doing it last year, and that's one of the reasons why. Because it's a game that forces you to sit in a small group and interact in an intense way for hours. And you have to be very sensitive to the way other people react. You sort of sense what they want, what they're trying to do. And especially if you're the game master, if you're the one controlling the game, you have to be very conscious of what all your players think, what they know, what they remember, what they forgot, what they want, what would make them happy, what would make them unhappy, what would make them have fun, what would make them not have fun. And it's like a crash course for interacting in that way.
If there's a task, I'm good. But just social situations where you just go and you're just supposed to talk to people, total and complete shit. 100%. That is the one area that I get nervous in.
Here's the secret.
Yeah.
There's never not a task.
What?
If you're no, I'm serious. If you're in a small group, even in a social situation, the task is to have a good time. The task is to meet people. There's always a task. There's never not a task. And it sounds cheap.
Yeah.
It sounds like I've commercialized the entire social experience, but there's really not though, right?
Yeah.
It's not like that. Because there always is something that people want out of that experience. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. There's always something that people want to happen and something they don't want to happen.
Yeah.
They want to enjoy talking to people. They don't want to feel awkward.
Yeah.
So there's always a task. There's always a goal that you can find. Even if there's no external goal where someone says, your small group has 5 minutes to discover the answer to this riddle.
Yeah.
The riddle is always, how do we enjoy talking to each other?
Too big. Let's go back. So, okay, you wrote a lot. Did you read a lot as a kid?
I did, and I got out of it recently. By recently, I mean pretty much after I moved to China. Very recently, as in 2019. We are now in the third month of this year. Fourth?
Unbelievable.
Third?
Yeah.
I've read 12 novels so far this year.
Oh my God.
So I got back in a big way. But when I was a kid, I would read for fun.
Yeah.
A lot.
Do you remember your first library experience?
I don't remember my first library experience. I remember a library experience where I'd read his Dark Materials trilogy by Philip Pullman. I read a lot of Philip Pullman books. I read Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, of course. I'd read a lot of like young young readers' fantasy books.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember one time I was in a library. We used to go relatively frequently. And I saw a fantasy book that looked cool. I didn't know anything about it. And so I just sort of plucked it off the shelf. And it was real big. My mom seemed sort of skeptical that I would have chosen that book. But I was like, oh, whatever. And that was the first time I learned that not all fantasy books are written for young readers. What
book was it?
I don't even remember.
Okay.
I guess I thought the picture on the cover looked cool.
Yeah.
But there was lots of big words, and it was, the author doesn't hold your hand and walk you through things in a realist way. There was a lot more disconnected stuff where maybe you'd figure it out halfway through the book, and then the beginning of the book would make sense.
Yeah.
It was, that's, I think, the only library experience from my younger years that really sticks out to me. Because I don't think that I got a lot of books from the library. Our family was well off enough that, and my parents were well educated enough that they valued reading and education in a big way, and they were willing to spend money that they had on that.
So did you spend more time in a bookstore than a library?
Yeah. One of my parents' rules was that one of the things they will always buy is books. They're always going to buy you clothes. They're always going to buy you little chocolates. But if there's a book that you want to read, they will purchase it for you. That was the one purchasing rule that we had when we were kids.
What languages were going on around you? You said you're from Texas. I imagine Spanish was around you.
Yeah,
What
Spanish was around. Sorry?
What other languages were around you growing up?
Ooh, I think that was probably it. I remember we had a family physician, Dr. Sudi, we called him. I think his name was Nifon Sudivorosek, but that sounds like a medicine, so maybe my brain maybe my brain is sort of imprinting medicine names on him.
Medicine that he gave you.
Could have been, but we call him Dr. Sudi.
Yeah.
I think he was, this is super embarrassing. I think he was Vietnamese. And so he was the guy who would speak broken English. He was my broken English experience when I was a kid.
How old were you?
From as young as I can remember.
Yeah. Okay.
He was a family physician. There's a really easy thing that happens, and I see expats or immigrants in China doing this to Chinese people all the time, and I see Chinese people doing this to foreigners all the time. If someone speaks your language in a broken way, the reflex is to judge them as you would judge someone who was born where you were born. So the reflex if you hear someone speaking broken English is, and I think most people can flip the switch in their brain to where this is not true, but your first reflex is, this person's an idiot. Otherwise, they could speak well. But because Dr. Sudi was a doctor, that assumption was right out from the beginning. I never thought about that before, but ever since I was a kid, I never really thought that not speaking English well was a bad thing. And I'm from the Deep South. So there's a lot of people who do feel that way. People say, oh, you're in America, speak English. Like, no.
I've known English teachers who treated very intelligent students, even professional adult students, kind of condescending. No, I'm being too nice. Condescendingly, because they assumed that their language level was their intelligence level.
Right.
And I actually pulled, not that I had any sort of management authority over them or anything, but I pulled a number of people aside over the years and was like, look, this person is a person first, and they're speaking to you in their second language. And a lot of these teachers were monolingual English speakers, and I was like, how about you have a conversation in their language and see how intelligent you sound? And I did it in a nicer way than that, but it bugged me that people were judging their second or sometimes third and fourth language of this person.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And because it's not an indication of their intelligence at all. It's an indication of their language level.
I sincerely doubt that anyone who spent a considerable amount of time earnestly trying to learn a language would judge someone for speaking your language poorly.
And that's
because
why
you've
learning
been there
language
and you
is
know.
so important. Yeah, because it gives you that flexibility and that sympathy when you come across someone where to navigate and to communicate with them, you have to speak in a language that either is uncomfortable for you or for them, and then you're like, you're a decent person to them instead of an idiot. I get on a soapbox about some of this stuff.
No, I think so. I think soapboxes are good for podcasting. Because people who believe in you are like, yeah, like and subscribe, this person's awesome. And the people who don't agree with you are like, I'm still going to comment on this because...
That's true.
There's no such thing as bad press.
I suppose. I don't know if that's true in the language learning community. I don't know. I don't know if those people are listening. If you are, please do start a fight with me. I want to hear what you have to say.
Let's fight.
Let's fight. Let's
go.
On. Is there anything else language related from your childhood that sticks out to you?
I don't think so. My dad never left the USA once in his life. He passed away about 4 or 5 years ago. Wow, I really should know specifically how many years ago that was. Let's say 5 years ago.
Okay.
That's, my mom lived all over, because my grandfather on my mom's side was a geophysicist for Shell, so he was all over the world looking for oil.
Yeah.
So she had been to lots of different countries since she was a kid. So my mom and my dad are kind of on opposite sides of the spectrum in terms of exposure to other languages. But I grew up in a small town, Marshall, Texas, 25,000 people. We had like one Chinese foreign exchange student who never talked to anybody because no one ever talked to him.
Yeah.
And it never occurred to me to try to go up and strike up a conversation with this kid. He was just a kid I saw around sometimes. There were some people who spoke Spanish at home, and so their English was not that good.
Did your mom speak multiple languages?
She did not. She learned a little bit of Spanish, and she loves to tell the story of, she was at a party in Mexico one time, and someone offered her some canapes, if you will.
Oh, okay.
And she wanted to say in Spanish, and I totally understand this. If she just said, "Oh, no, thank you," in English, that would have been fine. Everyone would know what she's talking about. But she wanted to go that extra mile, and she wanted to say, "I'm not hungry." And in Spanish, that's "I don't have hunger." No tengo hambre.
Yeah.
But she said, "No tengo hombre," which means I don't have a man. Sorry, I told that story, Mom. No, I can't share this link with you.
Yeah.
I think the guy got it. I don't remember how she said the guy reacted, but she didn't marry that guy anyway, so. I don't know. Maybe that's how they met. Maybe they've been lying to me the whole time.
So much is coming up.
Yeah. I went to Austria when I was in college. I went there for a month for like a summer study abroad sort of thing. And we had a German class every morning, which I really enjoyed getting into the grammar of it because I felt able to see people who have the same interests like to look to their capability in that interest as a virtue. I really think I liked learning German there because I was better at it than a lot of the other people. Now, I don't speak any German now, so it clearly didn't stick. But when we would talk about grammar and like, this is how a German sentence sticks together, which I don't remember any of at this point. But as I recall, German grammar can be very complex. You can have phrases that don't resolve until you've had several interstitial phrases in the middle of it. But I was able to sort of click onto that and hatch onto that and make that happen. And so I really enjoyed that. I remember once I went to the opera, and I had studied all day to try to get my pronunciation really good on asking, where are the student tickets? And so I walk up to this woman and has a name tag, and I ask her, where are the student tickets? And she seemed elated because I'm clearly a tourist, but I'm clearly making an effort. And apparently in every other country except for America, when someone makes an effort to speak your language, that's exciting to you. And you feel good about that. Americans and French, not so good about that. And so she very happily chattered away in German, telling me where the student tickets were, and I had no idea. I just like shrugged, and then she said in very good English, "Oh, they're just over there." Blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah. And also when I was in Austria, I was walking down the street, and this guy stops me and tries to hand me a flyer and talks to me in German. I didn't get any of it. And so I said, "I'm just sorry, I don't speak..." In German, I said, "I'm sorry, I don't speak German." And he replied in pretty good English, "That wasn't German, that was Bavarian." It's like, oh, there is some deep water here that I don't understand. Yeah. So I think that was the first time that I really sort of, and that's something you come across, oh goodness, in China all the time. Different regional dialects, the way they connect with regional identity. That was kind of my first taste of that. Yeah.
It's funny because in the beginning you didn't mention German as one of your languages.
Well, I don't speak any German anymore. Yeah. I learned German for that 1 month.
Oh, okay.
And I don't speak any German anymore.
Yeah.
I barely did then.
Can you? Oh, yeah. I took it for 2 years in high school, and I barely.
Yeah.
I can read some of it because language.
Some words look similar. Yeah. Some articles look the same.
But I didn't know what cases were in high school. Apparently, I don't think she explicitly taught that. It was so boring. Honestly, it was such a boring time. Starting language learning for teenagers in the U.S. is just insane. Could you pick a crazier time to start something really difficult? I mean, teenagers have so much going on.
I honestly believe that if they are in a good environment for it, they can learn it. But being in high school, where that 45 for us, it was 45 minutes that you have that Spanish class. That's the only time all day that you're going to be involved in Spanish at all. You're not going to get anything from that. Nope. Nothing that's going to last anyway.
Yeah. No, a good environment, you can probably learn it at any stage.
I think if I'd stayed in Austria for a year, I'd speak passable basic German.
Yeah.
I probably would have picked it up faster than I picked up Chinese.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot more layers. Speaking of which, let's switch to that.
Yeah. Layers. Like an ogre or an onion.
What if you could transform your next game night into an unforgettable language learning experience? Hi, my name is Matthew Boyle, founder of Language Card Games and friend of Stephanie Fuccio and Changing Scripts. I'm here today with a special offer. During the month of May, you can apply the coupon code Changing Scripts when you check out at languagecardgames.com to save on any of our games. Since 2016, we have been providing innovative products to language gamers, and now we call you to join us at the table. Learning languages is a big deal, and we want to give you a hand. That's why we've created games for everyone, suitable for beginning and expert language learners, young and old. What's more, we provide free shipping to any location worldwide. So if you're looking for something to take your study sessions, classes, or game nights to the next level, this is it. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Changing Scripts. Enjoy the rest of the show, and later stop by to see us at languagecardgames.com. How gamers learn languages.
And for the listeners, I met Josh, a couple of months ago?
A couple months ago, yeah.
Yeah, and we met in person a few weeks ago. Sorry, I met him on WeChat, which is basically the Facebook of China.
I saw you from across the room at a podcasting conference.
There we go, yeah. And we almost met that day, but I had to go because I always overplan things. Mm-hmm. And then we met in person a couple of weeks ago, and he started to talk about learning Chinese for a second, and I actually stopped him, which I never do, because I like this stuff, and I was like, no, save it for the podcast. So, dun, dun, dun.
Oh, no, the time has come.
The time has come.
The time has come.
Before you go into depth on any of it, can you give us a brief overview of your learning strategy?
Wish I had a learning strategy. So
There's the overview.
I probably would have made it a lot simpler. So the overall process was, when I first got here, I dropped out of graduate school before I came here, and so it was the first part of my life that I could remember where I was not going to classes regularly and learning something. And so I had this compulsion, I had this vestigial compulsion to where, like, if I'm not learning something, my life is meaningless and I am a piece of trash, and jump from a bridge, please. That was the neurosis that I carried with me.
So much right now, but yeah, keep going.
So I had this, like, I gotta learn Chinese. And I like to say that I'm self-taught, but at the beginning, I absolutely was not. If I counted up all the Chinese lessons that I took, and never in a class, I never took a Chinese class. Yeah. But I did have, at one point, my company gave me someone who was supposed to teach me Chinese at one point. A couple points I found friends who I hired to kind of teach me Chinese. Yeah. But I don't think I had more than 3 lessons with the same person. Yeah. And I don't think I had more than 12 or 13 lessons overall. But those lessons were crucial for getting the very, very basics of Chinese, the fundamental conceptual differences in terms of what are the tones, what do they sound like, what's that whole deal, because that's, I want to use a lot of profanity, that's just a whole can of worms.
Out comes the cheesy voice. Okay.
Yeah. And this is something that people try to talk me down from, but I insist that learning how to write the characters is crucial. But there's a stroke order to the characters.
Yes.
And that, to me, it's not just about the sort of elitist, oh, you wrote that character correctly, but you wrote it in the wrong order, so you're a pleb.
Have you seen somebody's writing where it was written in the wrong order and it stopped you from understanding what it was?
I don't think I have. But when a Chinese person writes, when an actually literate person uses a pen or a pencil to write something, if you don't know the stroke order, it is illegible if they write quickly. Because just like the English version of cursive, cursive is just print written quickly. Yeah. Because you don't waste time picking up your pen. Yeah, okay. You're making a face. Yeah. I want to give the listeners, she gave a very skeptical, the jaw was 3 inches to the left of the face, the eyes were squinted.
There's a lot more to the script I was taught in elementary school, and we actually had like handwriting classes. East Coast. And so, yeah,
I'm sure we had that
there
too.
was a lot more to it than than just writing it quickly for what the script I learned when I was a child.
Yeah.
So that was my face.
I think, and I'm not a language historian, so I might be off in this, but I think that the difference between script and print is that print is the platonic ideal of what each character, what each letter is.
Oh my God, we went
and
there.
Script is what happens when you write it quickly. And of course, other conventions were developed around script, and then suddenly there was a right way and a wrong way.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, if you want to write quickly, you cannot be picking up the pen after every letter.
Yeah.
It's more fluid if you do it that way. So, have you ever seen a Chinese person's handwriting and been completely unable to understand what it says?
This is not distinct just to handwriting for me. There's still a lot of characters I don't know.
Well, right.
But no, there have been. Actually, last week there was a sign downstairs in my apartment building. We're in the living room right now, which is why I'm saying that. Listeners, so...
It's a nice living room.
Thank you.
Got a great map of Shanghai on the wall.
It's highly inaccurate, I've been told.
It's very inaccurate, but it looks quite nice, which
it
is,
does.
I mean, what's more important, right?
So downstairs last week, there was a sign that was written, it almost looked like in marker, but it was a very quickly written poster that somebody wrote about something annoying that somebody else in the building did. And I took a picture and sent it to a friend and was like, I normally don't like asking this, but what the hell does this say? Because it was a very weird situation with a dead animal next to it and all kinds of weird stuff.
What?
Yeah, it was very strange. It was very, very strange. He sent me the characters and the opinion and then described what it said. And I recognized the characters and obviously the opinion, but I could not recognize a lot of them in the script. It was so thick and some of them bled together. And it was, obviously it was written very, very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just, it was a weird situation.
If you write... The reason why Chinese people can understand the handwriting, like I can understand, I'm a translator now, so I understand a lot of characters. Not all of them. It's important to note. As a translator, I keep a dictionary next to me all the time. So don't feel bad if you have to look at your dictionary. Hi, I'm a professional translator. I have Plico on my phone. I use it all the time. The stroke order is crucial for two reasons. Jumping way back to when I started talking about this in the first place. One is Chinese people can only read other people's handwriting because they know the stroke order. So they know that if you write quickly, these two strokes are going to blend together, and then that's going to look like blah, 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 blah.
So that determines what goes missing in script, apparently.
Yeah, what goes missing and what gets changed in what way.
Yeah. Okay.
And for me, stroke order is absolutely crucial for learning the language because it allows me to hold the character in my mind. It adds another... This might be a personal oddity. I almost said weirdity, but that's not a word. A personal oddity in that... If there... It is now. It's in a podcast, so it has to be true. If there...
Dun, dun, dun.
If there are multiple layers of information to a thing, it's easier for me to remember. For example, if there's just a picture of something, I might not remember it. If there's a picture and a sound, there's more information for me to grab onto. Picture, a sound, and a smell. Yeah. The more rich it is, the more easy it is, which is actually the word easier, to grab onto this. For someone who has not learned Chinese, every character looks like a unique set of impenetrable scribbles. But when you learn Chinese for a while, you understand that there are a lot of building blocks that go into characters. First, there's the different, like sometimes a character could be a combination of different characters stuck together in a specific order. There are specific parts of characters that get reused in other characters. There are some characters that when they become a part of another character, they get changed in a certain way to become part of a different character. And that's a whole shit ton of random ass whatever. I'm giving you all your profanity right now. If you don't speak Chinese and you're listening to me say this, you're thinking, oh, that sounds impossible and weird and like way too much. And it kind of is, but for me, learning how to write the characters and writing them over and over and over again and getting the correct stroke order allowed me to sort of form them in my mind and hang on to them better. I'm of the opinion that nothing is hard. It's just some things take longer than others. And if you can spend the time doing it, then you can get it. And adding the stroke order, learning the characters gave me a structure that allowed me to keep trying to write characters. I'm way off topic, by the way. You asked me what my process was.
You're not at all. You're talking about Mandarin Chinese. That is the point.
My process basically was I had a few lessons where they taught me the basics of pronunciation, the basics of the stroke order, and how characters are basically put together. And then I bought a stack of textbooks, starting from beginner to intermediate.
What kind of textbooks?
Oh, geez, whatever I could find.
Were they HSK or non-HSK?
At the time, I did not know what HSK was.
Fair enough.
I have not taken the HSK.
Yeah. And where were you in Hangzhou at this point?
No, I was in Guangzhou.
You're Guangzhou. Oh,
so
okay, yeah.
Here's the rundown.
Also known as Canton.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Old Canton.
A lot of the listeners are actually in the U.S. So that would be southern China. Sorry.
Right. Oh, and that's how I introduce Opium Wars. You know, that's that area.
Yeah.
So in 2010, January 10th, 2010, that's my brother's birthday. My gift to him was,
I'm leaving.
bye. You don't have to deal with me anymore. It was unintentional. That was not the birthday present. I lived there for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So in the summer of 2012, I moved to Haikou, which is the capital of Hainan Island.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is China's Hawaii, they say. So when I was in Guangzhou, I was teaching English as a stereotypical, looked down upon English teacher with no real relevant teaching experience.
Yeah.
No education degree
It's the
whatsoever.
majority of the field, whether people want to admit it or not.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sure your listeners are by now familiar with the way that most foreigners kind of look down on unqualified foreign teachers.
I'm not sure it's just the foreigners that look down on the unqualified teachers.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Some locals will look down on them and still be willing to pay lots of money to have them teach their kid, because at least they're interacting with some native English.
Yep.
Hopefully. So I did that for the first 2.5 years, and that was the time where I was really looking at books and copying characters for hours. I would go teach my classes, sometimes 6 classes a day, back to back.
Oh my God.
And then sit in my office until just doing the Chinese stuff and writing characters over and over again until the last subway train. And I'd rush out and grab the last subway train and go home. But that was only in fits and spurts. So before the interview started, before we turned on the mics, you were talking about how you studied like a fiend for a while, but you haven't really recently. And I asked you, are you recording? Because if so, I'm going to go into this.
Yeah.
I could not maintain that level of intensity for more than a few weeks to a couple months. But when I got on that train, it was very productive. And when I got off that train, I could still use what I had learned in my everyday life. And I could still learn a couple characters here, a couple characters there. Oh, this person used a profanity. Now I know that one. And after 2.5 years of doing that, I finally was able to trick someone into thinking I spoke Chinese well enough to take a Chinese job in Haikou. That was a crazy job.
Can we stop for 1 second?
Yeah.
Because I was making faces.
I'm all
and
over the place.
I apologize for my faces, but I was.
I love them. I wish that this were a YouTube video.
Yeah, well, there is actually, now that you say that, there is an accompanying. This is a PodTube. It's part podcast, part YouTube. But usually, unfortunately, the videos are just me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my pontifications about the difficulties of learning language in general, Mandarin Chinese specifically. I do plugs whenever I can. I just do.
Yeah. You got it.
Anyway,
if you don't, who will?
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
That's not what I meant.
I'm just kidding. Anyway, so while you were talking about the characters are what brought me in this time, starting 2 years ago. I actually, to go back even further, moved to the first place that really, really, other than just Chinatowns, used the language in a big, big way, and that was Taiwan in 2003.
Yeah.
The traditional characters, the teaching methods, me hiring my neighbor as a tutor, and her just giving me pages of text, just with tons of sentences, with no building blocks. It was just so overwhelming. Like, I've tried 2 or 3 times before this to do it. But this time, when we came back, I just left a PhD program. So it's like our lives, our language lives are kind of aligning, right? Just left a PhD program. Wonderful experience, but not where I wanted to go long term. And it's like a 7-year commitment. So I'm like, no, but I needed something to do. I needed a project. So learning Mandarin again seemed to work. And the characters, instead of taunting me, were like calling me in. And I'm like, what is happening right now? What the hell? I need a project. Let's go. And so writing them, I found, okay, to be fair, tracing them on an app was really meditative for me. What
app were you using?
Oh, I no longer. There's entire videos.
That's
with
fine.
Me doing them.
This is a whole other can of worms that I need to open.
But I'll put it down in the show notes and I'll send it to you. I'll probably find it.
I use a similar app where you would trace it with your finger. And sometimes they would give you the template, sometimes they wouldn't.
And it was a game. Like, it would have like points if you traced it like quick enough. And
nice.
You'd basically die if you didn't do it like long enough. Anyway.
I am in support of gamification of
language
learning.
No, me too. And it was very, very meditative. Like, I would do it in between stuff when I was on the metro and all this kind of stuff. And I've stopped doing it since then, but I really like that part of it.
Yeah.
And I think the layers, although it was annoying at first to have the layers of the sound, also known as the pinyin, which is also like in the Roman alphabet, and then the characters, and then the meaning, and then and then adding on the grammatical stuff later. Like, having those layers was really annoying initially because I've only tried to learn Romance languages before this. However, having those layers, I think, is one of the things that has, even though I can't speak for shit right now, my vocabulary is much bigger in Chinese than it's ever been in any other attempt at a second language.
Really?
And I think the visualness of the characters is you just made me realize like 5 minutes ago
Huh.
is the thing that probably did that, because there's the texture of it, of the different parts of it that was really hard to learn, that is not leaving. Even though I've been MIA language learning for over a month now, I still can read the characters that I can read. And I can still hear some things as I'm walking around and I hear people say things. They haven't left. And I think it's that the depth and the complexity of the language that is probably what's doing it.
Yeah, because it's so multisensory in a way.
Yeah, and it's so different from English. Like the stuff I learned in Spanish and German. Wait, German's not a Romance language, is it?
No, it's not.
Shit.
I don't even think English technically is.
I don't think English is either.
I think it's Germanic.
But I feel like I didn't learn the English. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, anyway, any of the previous languages were too similar to English, and I think that interfered for me. Whereas Chinese feels so intensely different and has so many layers that I think that's why it's kind of sticking a little bit.
That's fascinating.
Well, you're the one that just said that. I just reiterated it and said, yes, me too. That entire giant thing I just went into was basically me saying, I had that experience.
It's funny because I haven't thought about it that way. I haven't thought about, Chinese is so different and that's why it sticks for me. It's difficult for me to compare my Chinese language learning experience to my Spanish language learning experience because I was not in a Spanish environment, whereas I am in a Chinese environment now. And that has really, really, for me, shaped how it all went down and how I was able to do it and what my motivations were and what my reward system was.
From when you started learning Chinese to when you could understand what was happening around you, to any degree, how long do you think that took?
Oh, heavens. I mean, to any degree, probably about a year.
Thank you. Because a lot of people say just go in the environment and you'll learn stuff around you. That is not true for Mandarin Chinese, I don't think.
Anecdotally, there are people whose brains can do that.
Oh.
And people, anecdotally, but I don't think it's necessarily linguistic. I think there are people who are very sensitive to tone, very sensitive to manners of expression and body language. I've had friends who can't speak Chinese for shit. Inform me on what someone else meant. And this is especially when I was in Guangzhou. I had just started learning and I could kind of understand a lot of times in taxis. Taxis have played such an important part of my language learning experience.
Yeah.
There would be times where I would be talking to the driver and I would be thinking about, putting words together, making sentences, and he would talk back to me. He's almost always a male taxi driver. And I would be trying to parse what he was saying. And I would miss information that my friend who could not, by his own words, could not learn Chinese. He would inform me about what the taxi driver was trying to tell me because he was tuned into how people communicate. So I think when you're talking about a very, very, very basic level of communication, I think a lot of people can tune into that in sort of an alinguistic, or alinguistic is not entirely correct, but or sort of an alexical way that is still somewhat linguistic.
Sure.
But for me, it took me about a year before I was really like, okay, I can express things and I can sort of understand what other people are throwing at me.
Right.
But I've been going through different levels of that up and up and up and up and ever since then. Like my second year, I went up another level. And then when I went to Heiko, they had me doing telemarketing, which was two Chinese people, which was just gives you a frame of mind. It gives you a frame of reference for how dumb these people really were running this company. But if they were smart, they wouldn't have hired me.
Well, they might have wanted you for the foreign factor.
They did. But the thing was, they were never smart enough to make that happen. Okay, it was a wedding company. And they were trying to do a destination wedding location on Hainan. Because it's like China's Hawaii. And there was that had never really taken off, which is weird because it really should have. I think the market was just dominated by the hotels. And so there were no independent companies who were able to do that. And their idea was, we're going to pull in not only Chinese people, but we're going to pull in Russians. We're going to pull in people from this hemisphere who want a tropical wedding. And so they hired a foreigner. I don't speak Russian. These are not intelligent people is what I'm telling you. And so they had me in the office and they didn't know what to do with me. And so they were trying to do this conference. I don't mean to say that Chinese people are bad at business. This isn't a racist sort of thing. But like when people talk about Silicon Valley, they talk about ways that Silicon Valley entrepreneurs are bad at things and the misconceptions they have. There's a whole other set of misconceptions that Chinese entrepreneurs have. So I'm not saying that Chinese people are bad at business. I'm not saying all Chinese people have these misconceptions. I mean, when Chinese people are bad at business, this is generally how they are bad at business. And that's a whole other topic to have.
Podcast,
But I was the guy in the back saying, you realize this conference isn't going to happen, right? You realize this doesn't have a chance. Okay. No, that's fine. But they still had us calling people, all over China, business owners, to try to get them to come to this conference. And I had nothing else to do. So they would give me a list of people, names and phone numbers. I would be calling them in Chinese and asking them, I couldn't even order a sandwich with no cheese at this point. And I'm trying to invite people to come to this conference. And that was a whole other level of language learning experience for me. And I was there for about a year before they realized, oh, this guy isn't helping us at all. And they had to hire some consultants to sort of turn their business around. And like, item number one was, why are you paying this guy?
Yeah.
Get him out of here. But I'd been on a Chinese TV show, a Chinese dating show at that point. And a company in Beijing had seen me on the show. And they sent me an email saying, oh, well, we need someone who can speak English and Chinese. My Chinese got a lot better. Like, you teach a baby to swim by throwing it in the water and they can just do it. A sink or swim sort of thing. Yep. Heiko, that stupid company where I was a Chinese telemarketer, was definitely my sink or swim moment for Chinese, where I just had to do it. There was no excuse. I couldn't, like when I was in Guangzhou, I could be like, oh, I don't want to speak Chinese today. I'm just going to hang out with my foreign friends. And Heiko, I didn't really have any foreign friends. I made a couple eventually.
Did you make any notes as you were talking to people and kind of learning the language by sinking or swimming? Did you make any notes, or did you record anything and listen to it later? Like, did you do any of that stuff?
I didn't listen to it later. I recorded, I think starting in Guangzhou, I started recording all my taxi rides.
See, I've been thinking about doing that.
Oh, I have hours and hours and hours and hours over the last, I think, 6 or 7 years of taxi recordings. Because they all ask the same questions. And I tell Chinese people like, oh, taxi drivers frequently ask me about the size of my penis, and they don't believe me. So I started.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, much more in Guangzhou than since I moved north.
Do they ask each other that question?
Fuck if I know.
Okay.
Apparently not, because this is like, as a foreigner in China, you exist in a sort of extra space.
Sure, yeah.
Where people don't necessarily feel as bound by their, because Chinese people often think of their own culture as being very restrictive.
Yes.
But we're not part of that. So if they feel restricted in any way, they feel, many people feel less so when talking to us.
When I first moved to Taiwan in 2003, every single female I met that was teenager and older, Sex and the City, the TV show, was very popular. And they would start out by talking about Sex and the City and then ask me about my sex life. No matter if I met them 5 minutes before or a few months before. Yeah. Well, obviously, I'm talking about meeting them. So anyway, no matter how much time into the conversation it was. And I was like, whoa, okay, look, I'm a very open person and I'm all about culturally sharing stuff. But I know if I share anything about my sex life, you're never going to reciprocate.
Oh, right, absolutely.
And you might know someone I know. And it's just like, what? And I know the conservative view, and as soon as I tell you something, you're going to judge me. And I'm like, this is just slippery as all hell.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow. But yeah, it's the same kind of thing. I can ask a foreigner this. No, you can, but should you?
Because, and use the word open, which is something that comes up a lot. Yeah. Chinese people tell me, oh, foreigners are so open, or is it really as open in America as they say, or is, in China we're not very open. And that's not a word that we use in that way. No. So the fact that you even use the word open, I think was kind of like half code switching, because you know that I've been in China for a while. Yeah. I wouldn't use that word in the States to mean that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Would I? I don't even know at this point, because, I can't know.
I often joke about how I speak 4 languages. Yeah. People ask, a common question is when I speak Chinese to a Chinese person is, how many languages do you speak? I always say 4. I speak in Chinese, I say I speak 英文、中文、中式英文和英式中文. I speak English, Chinese, Chinese style English, and English style Chinese. So...
Oh my god.
So that using open in that way is definitely Chinese style English. Yeah. That's a word that exists here that doesn't.
It so is. Well, I taught Chinese teenagers last time when we were in Nanjing 8 years ago, and now I don't teach anymore, but I am testing about that age group, and I do find that a lot of their Chinese English comes into my usage. It's part of the cringe factor in editing, as I realized that it's seeped in, and I'm like, no, he's a job being evil. You were learning on the job.
Yes.
Ironically, they fired you after you got competent at doing the job, it sounds like.
Well, I never got competent at doing the job. Oh. and they
linguistically got competent.
Right. They never came up with a good job for me to do. But the one thing they did for me was the boss, in an effort to promote the new company, she encouraged me to sign up for a dating show, which I refused. And finally, at one point, we were off on a business trip looking for good locations. And she asked me, and just to stop the conversation, I said, sure, I'll think about it. When I get back, maybe I'll sign up. And so she pulls out her cell phone and calls her assistant, who's back in Heiko, and says, find the photocopy of that guy's passport and go on the website and sign him up. He agreed to do it. So they signed me up, and then they called me in for an interview, and then eventually I ended up going on the show. Yeah. After the show, a company in Beijing, a surprisingly reputable BTL marketing company, calls me up and says, hey, we're looking for someone who doesn't mind getting on stage and speaking in English and Chinese and can present themselves well and has a good sense of humor. We have some foreign clients that we want to up our game with, so how about a job interview? And at the time, I thought, oh, come on, what kind of company recruits from dating shows? That's obscene. That's absurd. Free trip to Beijing, so I went to Beijing, and good company. And so I worked there for a year, and then I got poached by one of their competitors. I stayed there for 3 years. And that was the time when I really, really, really upped my Chinese game. So when I got to Beijing, I could still do a very limited amount of stuff. But after I got there, it was life in the fast lane, because I was the only foreigner in the company. I was the only foreigner in either company when I started working for them. And a couple people could speak English, but not very well.
Yeah.
And so, fortunately, at the first company, I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. They just kind of wanted me to interface with one client and only sometimes. So aside from that, I was doing...
They hired you to work with only one client?
But there was only one client that had foreigners on their side interfacing with the agencies. Okay. Every other brand, I don't even know if I can talk about specific brand names, but every other brand had a largely Chinese marketing team. Only this one brand was still hiring foreigners for... positions that interface with agencies. But not for every project. So I was only needed part-time for that. And so I spent most of my time either translating stuff for other departments or just looking at my goddamn inbox and trying to figure out what the emails meant. Like, you get an email from HR that's like, 17 paragraphs. And if I'm in an American company and HR sends me, like when I was in graduate school, and then the graduate student department would send me an email, it's like this semester's regulations or whatever. I wouldn't read that. Well, because why?
Yeah.
I might skim it. But you get those in Chinese, and for me, that's like, as this month's textbook has just arrived on my inbox, let's learn all this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's really when it hit me. Because my Chinese learning had a spike when I first got here, and then it sort of leveled off. And I had another spike when I got to Haikou, and it leveled off. And then I got a huge sustained spike when I went to Beijing, and that's when it really hit me.
Yeah.
Necessity is the mother of learning languages. When I was in Guangzhou, my necessity was I felt like a rubbish human being if I wasn't learning something. I dropped out of graduate school. I had no prospects for myself. This is something I can latch on to base my self-worth on. my progress in this one thing. And that was the fuel I was burning to literally work to the midnight hours to learn a little bit of Chinese there. When I got to Haikou, it was a sink or swim sort of thing, where, if I didn't want to get fired and be, unemployed. When I got to Beijing, it was a similar thing. But when I was not in the crunch times, it was very, 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 very almost impossibly hard for me to open up a Chinese textbook and learn something. Yeah. Which is what I kind of wanted to talk about before we even started the interview, which is the times when I cannot force myself to open a Chinese textbook are the times when I feel like I speak enough Chinese to do what I am faced with.
Well, if you're able to use it, why would you study it?
Because then you can do more stuff with it. I can make more money now in more different ways than I could 5 years ago.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons, and prime among them is that my Chinese is a lot better.
Yeah.
If my Chinese were better than it is now, I could be making even more money.
Okay.
But I'm making enough money. There's no necessity there. That's the trick. It's because if I had tripped into a job where I needed to know more Chinese to execute the duties that were presented to me immediately, I would have more motivation to do it. I have Chinese textbooks in my house right now that I have not read through.
What textbooks?
I don't remember the name, to be honest. Yeah. It's textbooks I bought years ago.
What kind? Are they like reading based? Are there actually still grammatical exercises at the level
Both.
That you're at, or listening?
Both, yeah.
Okay.
But I haven't looked at them in so long, I'm not sure that I would. Here's the thing about language learning.
Textbooks are awful. Sorry,
yes, but I think that there's a way to use them that is beneficial. Yeah. I don't force myself to do every single line in a textbook, and I think if someone forced me to do that, I would be wasting a lot of time. But language learning is not like a C level. It's not like when your language learning goes up, then everything is uniformly better. There are probably language points and grammatical points in those textbooks that I am not consciously aware of, and that if someone spoke to me using them, I would understand them, but I would never produce that language. And my Chinese would be better if I could produce that language. but because I've sort of learned in a self-taught, tacked-on sort of way based on the necessity. I mean, there are points in my life where I could talk about event marketing in Chinese and I couldn't talk about politics in Chinese.
Right.
I could talk about event marketing in Chinese and I could not talk about event marketing in English. And that happened to me very embarrassingly, but very humorously in a couple client meetings where I'd like sign encounter. I was describing the map of a venue that we laid out, and I said we're going to put the sign encounter here, but I could not think of the English word for sign encounter, which is 签到台 in Chinese, because we only ever talked about that in Chinese.
Right.
And so in the meeting with the client sitting there, I was like, and this is this
thing.
I just sort of some sort of performative streak clicked on in me, and so I said in like a stage whisper in Chinese, 签到台怎么说? Which is, how do you say sign encounter in Chinese? And all the Chinese people in the room just started laughing. And then the foreigners were looking at each other like, what's going on here? And then one of the clients said sign encounter. Yes, thank you, sign encounter.
Well, okay, wait. Let's go back a bit, because you mentioned going on a Chinese dating show, and then we completely glossed over that.
I was hoping you would.
Well, no, of course not. Talk about necessity. I mean, a lot of people learn Mandarin Chinese because they get into relationships with locals and whatnot. So,
yep. That's a whole other bad words.
However far deep into this box that you've opened, did you go on the show?
I went on the show, yeah.
Okay.
And that's how it's 非诚勿扰, which is the most popular dating show. It's fallen off in popularity recently, but it is the quintessential Chinese dating show.
What does that mean? What can you describe the setup of the show to us?
Yeah, so there's 12 or 16 or 18 or 20 something women up on a stage with a pedestal.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah. And they each have a button. And if they hit the button, it means I've lost interest in this man. The men come on one by one. Okay. And they kind of have to introduce themselves, and then there's 3 short videos that they shoot about your life. They come to where you live, and they shoot a short video about you. Okay. So you walk on, you introduce yourself, they show a video. The women ask questions based on the video. They show another video. They ask questions based on that. They show a third video. They ask questions based on that. Okay. And at any point during this process, if a woman loses interest in you, they hit the button and their pedestal turns red. And if you get all the way through the entire process with one or more women still interested in you and having not turned off their light, then you can choose one of them and you get like a vacation for 2. No, actually, here's the trick. This is what I learned. You get 2 vacations to the same place that don't have to be used at the same time.
What?
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yep.
So, how did it go?
There's actually 2 buttons on the pedestal. One of them turns the light off, and one of them is called 爆灯. It means like I'm locking in. I'm 100% for this guy. So all the women but one turn their light off, and one of them even said, like as soon as I walked on the stage, she turned off her light. And the host asked, "Can I ask why you turn off your light?" And she said, "Oh, I just don't really think I could date a foreigner." And I think when I tell that story to Americans, a lot of them are like, "Oh, what the fuck?" But for me, like I was used to it by then. It's like, yeah, of course, that's how it is. A lot of people are like that. It's not even a big deal. But one woman, the one who didn't turn off her light, had given the 100% light. So it's kind of a weird thing. But I felt that she was quite strange. And the thing was, the prize trip that you would get was to the island of Hainan. Literally like a 45-minute drive from my apartment. So I felt no connection to that. And afterwards I Baidu'd myself, which is Googling yourself in China. I Baidu'd myself to see what people were saying about me. And there were lots of comments on my name in Chinese, but none of them were about me. They're all about that woman who apparently just goes all in for every foreigner who goes on the stage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow. So I'm glad I didn't go with her just for a 4-day 5-star hotel thing. 45 minutes from my house, because
that's bizarre. 2 separate vacations. And again, feel free to not answer any of this. Have you ever dated local?
Oh, yes. When you talked about how a lot of people learned Chinese because they were in relationships, I have not had that experience at all. I'll start with someone else's experience. I have a friend who is married to a Chinese woman, and he came to China around the same time that I did. His wife speaks very good English. And I'm pretty sure the reason he can't speak Chinese is because he is married to a bilingual woman. So he does not have the necessity of learning Chinese. When I first got here, I entered into a very ill-advised relationship with a woman whose English was okay, but there's so much hidden behind linguistic and cultural barriers. If at that point I didn't speak any Mandarin, I had never lived in China before. I was there for just a couple of weeks before we got into this mess. So I was not literate in the ways that these not only not literate in the differences, I was not literate in the ways the differences present themselves, and the fact that there were differences in many different ways.
I get that.
And so it was sort of a short-lived relationship that, like, as soon as I got the tools to sort of see clearly what kind of relationship I was in and who I was in a relationship with, I think both of us started to feel like, oh, we fucked that up. We misjudged that jump. We looked before we leaped. We didn't know what we were looking at. And I don't think that really improved my language skills at all.
Yeah.
I don't think that any of the relationships I've been in since I've been here have improved my language skills considerably.
Yeah.
When I say that to Chinese people, a common reply that I get back is, oh, but like when you get into a fight or something and you're sort of shooting from the hip and you're in that heightened state of emotion, that's when the language sort of fits together and comes out.
Yeah.
Which is true.
Yeah.
But are you be like, hey, I'm going to date you. Why? So we can fight and I can get real good at Chinese. That's not
a good selling point.
It's not a good reason. And that doesn't make a lot of sense. I should say that oftentimes people tell me that I should date a Chinese woman to learn more Chinese. But
I like that advice given to men often.
Right, it's very
mostly
common
men
advice
here. Yeah, let's be honest. Yeah.
Isn't it weird how that works one way?
I have met foreign women who also date locally, but it's like such a small percentage compared to the foreign men that date locally. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Just that I meant specifically like that advice only goes one way. I've never heard, and it could be that I've not interacted with it very much, but I very rarely hear foreign women being told to date Chinese men so that they can learn Chinese. But it's something that is told to foreign men a lot.
Yeah, I've never heard that actually. And even on my YouTube channel, like I have some locals writing in Chinese that I have to Google Translate sometimes to understand, but they're writing in there and they've never ever said, oh, you should date, oh, but I am married, so that could be why.
That could be why.
Yeah, that definitely could be why.
Get a foreign xiaosan.
I don't get edited out.
Do you know xiaosan?
Yeah, but in Taiwan, it never happened either. Actually, I was trying to learn guitar for a very, very short period of time, and I had a guitar language exchange where he was going to teach me guitar. A local man about my age was going to teach me guitar, and I was going to help him with his English, which was clearly already far ahead of anything that I knew in Mandarin. And we went out to eat after one of our sessions, and he got seriously harassed. It was not in a major, well, it wasn't a major city, population-wise, but not mentality-wise, in a major city, and he got massively harassed as we were eating because they assumed that we were romantically intertwined, and I would be weakening the gene pool kind of thing. And,
that's fascinating.
Well, and how fat I was, and how foreign I was, how old I was, like every single flaw you could imagine. It was sort of like a YouTube comment in real life, like for a woman, And thank goodness it was in a language I couldn't understand, but I got the tone and the stare. Yeah. So I understood what was happening, and I asked him because I was that stupid then to what was happening, and he tried not to tell me, and I was very pushy because I didn't understand how much face he was losing, and it was awful. We didn't really continue the exchange much after that because I think I embarrassed him so much by wanting to know.
Yeah, it's funny how much cultural literacy involves knowing what not to ask. I used to ask where people are from, and sometimes they'll say, "Oh, I'm from Shandong." And like I say, I'm from a little town in Texas called Marshall, and Americans think that's very normal. But if someone in China tells you the state or the province they're from, but not the town, that means they don't want to tell you the town. And oftentimes the reason is that they feel embarrassed for being from a small town. But I used to push for that. Oh, what town? Is that close to Qingdao? And people just wouldn't want to tell me. And sometimes people will say they're from big cities when they're not from big cities, and that's something I've learned not to push. I think asking where are you from is not as big of a deal, especially if you're a foreigner, so long as you don't push the answer. That's true. Yeah. That's true. But it'd still be nice to just think of a different question. It's just like when they ask, do you have children and why not? Oh, yeah. And I'm I kind of wish you guys wouldn't push the why not, because I just really don't need to have that conversation when I first meet someone. Yeah. That's an intimate answer. Yeah. And I'm like, so if we don't ask that and I don't ask this, we'll be good. Yeah. One of the things that I do to sort of combat those stock questions, because as a foreigner here, that we always get asked the same questions over and over and over and over again. The way I combat that, the way I subvert that, is to come up with ridiculous answers. Like when someone asks, "Are you married?" I say, "No." Any recommendations? And oftentimes it's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, you have my contact information. If some people ask me, Like always, people say, wow, your Chinese is really good. And my reply is always, oh, it's not as good as yours. And that sort of puts them off balance.
Yeah.
Something that they thought they knew how this interaction was going to go.
Yeah.
You flip it around on them. That's something that I really enjoy. And it goes back to the very beginning when I was talking about I enjoyed writing because it allowed me to create these surprising experiences for people. Because these interactions are so formalized.
Yeah.
And so almost stylized.
Yeah.
It allows me to know where the people are coming from. It allows me to see everything coming in slow because it's almost like the first time I meet someone, I know what they're going to say before they say it.
Yeah.
And so I have all these tricks for them. But it also means that when someone comes at me with a new angle, I am deeply impressed. And a lot of the friends that I've made are people who have come at me with non-standard questions or didn't even seem interested in the normal questions.
Yeah.
Even if someone's English is not super great, I will be much more impressed by their communication if they come at me from a new angle.
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay, you don't have as much vocabulary, you don't speak as well, your accent's a little bit hard to understand, you don't really have a lot of grammar going, but you're comfortable enough with this language to give me something that you clearly made up on the spot with considered thought behind it. That's incredibly impressive to me. And that's one of the reasons you talked earlier about how you like to focus on fluency over correctness. I absolutely feel that way 1,000% because my Chinese was fluent before it was correct. And I think people who focus too much on the correct never get to the fluent because they're kind of at odds with each other.
I could not have fed you that line any better. Thank you for being my mouthpiece for this.
You're welcome.
Because it's so, and part of my gripe with the language classroom, as much as I love classrooms and being in a learning environment, is that it seems to favor accuracy over production / fluency. And it drives me crazy because it's 99% of the time for communication purposes, whether it's on a paper or in person. It's to communicate.
Right.
And honestly, there's a lot of maneuvering back and forth, even between uber fluent speakers and users of the language.
Right.
Even when you think you're speaking the same language, you're still navigating what each other means.
Right.
So passionate I knock over my microphone.
That's something we'll talk about. I'm just going to throw this in there because this is a little compact thing that we have. One of the things that we wrote about in our book, which is kind of a critique on how English is usually taught in Chinese.
The name of the book.
The name of the book is Chinese. It's not going to help. If you can't speak Chinese, you can't buy it. But the name of the book is...
Some people who know Chinese are listening.
The name of the book is 与老外交朋友. It's by 磨铁图书. It's by 周树华和周建华. I'm 周树华. My friend is 周建华. And the name is very similar, but that's a coincidence. I had my name before I met him.
Okay.
One of the things we talk about is the difference between the test-taking mindset and the communicating mindset. Focusing on correctness over fluency is a test-taking mindset. That's only useful if the success of your interaction with the language is judged entirely on correctness of grammar. A communicator mindset is about fluency and clarity. You don't have to be correct to be clear. Not always.
That's very true. Yeah.
Right. So if you're coming at language from a test-taking mindset, it's like trying to learn how to ride a bike and never being allowed to wobble. Like you're only allowed, like if you start to wobble, you have to stop.
Yeah.
That's not a good way to learn to ride a bike.
Nope.
It's a good way to perhaps put on a show of riding a bike for someone. If there's a very controlled circumstance where you have to go 5 meters without wobbling, you can do that better.
Yeah.
But if you want to ride 4 blocks down the street and buy some bread and turn around and ride back with some bread and maybe some milk in your backpack, you can wobble all you want and it's fine as long as you don't fall.
Exactly.
And that's the communicator mindset. Just get it done. And after you become comfortable with it, then it's much easier for me to straighten out the wobbles than it is for me to try to do it without wobbles from the start.
Yes, and yes. So, okay, geographically, I've got you going from starting in Guangzhou, right?
It's already pretty far south, yeah. And then even further south. Yeah. What? Yeah, starting in Guangzhou, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you started in Guangzhou, then you went to Haiku, and then Beijing, and then Hangzhou, and then Shanghai?
Yes.
Okay, so we have to talk about linguistic differences that you encountered when you were talking to people in all these places, because that is an interesting mix. And just for the listeners, we started south, went to Island South, went way far north in the capital, and then Hangzhou is south again, but not as far south. Is it?
It's considered south.
Is people in China, really?
People in China, literally pretty much anywhere south of Nanjing. Yeah. People talk about it as being the south.
What is the biggest difference that you've noticed? Okay, let's stick to Putonghua. In all the areas in China that you have lived, what have you noticed being the biggest shift within Putonghua, which is the quote-unquote standard Mandarin Chinese?
This is one of my favorite factoids, Putonghua. Literally. There's so many science fiction novels where like, we speak Galactic Common, or, we speak Common. They don't call it English. They say we speak Common. Putonghua literally is common. That's
Yeah.
the translation.
Yeah.
There already is a place on Earth where the people call their own language common.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's just not in English.
Fun fact.
Yeah. I started learning Mandarin when I was in Guangzhou.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tell people that, Chinese people are often very put off by that. Like, oh, you can't learn Mandarin in Guangzhou. They have such a strong accent, and they speak Cantonese there.
Right.
And it's true. You do hear a lot of Cantonese on the streets. When Cantonese people are together, it's impossible to get them. There are times where I'll be hanging out with 3 friends who are all Cantonese, and I could not get them to speak Mandarin because it's just so natural for them to speak Cantonese.
Yeah.
In the school systems, you legally can't. You have to be speaking in Mandarin, so that the idea being that if someone from the north, if their family moves to Guangzhou for work, the kid has to be able to go to school.
Right.
And everyone in China should be able to speak Mandarin. So everyone does, except for the really old people. They all speak it. But there is a bit of an accent. And sometimes the accent can make it hard to communicate a little bit.
So,
well, my Mandarin was bad.
Yeah.
It was not a problem.
So you're saying there's a Cantonese accent on their Mandarin?
Very strongly.
Okay.
To the point where sometimes...
What does that sound like? Can you imitate that at all? I'm putting you totally on the spot here.
I'm going to call out one of my friends. So when I was in Guangzhou, I couldn't really tell because my Chinese was very poor.
Okay. Yeah.
So it wasn't an issue. But then I lived in Beijing for a while, lived all over. I became a translator, blah, 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 blah. I'm now a Chinese podcaster. So when I go back to visit, I hear people's accents for the first time. Oh. And it's incredible how much their accent informs my impression of them.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, you have this accent, so you're this kind of person.
Sure.
Not like that, because I already know them.
Yeah.
But, oh, you have this kind of accent, so this is how other people must see you.
Oh, wow.
Like, I have a friend who lived in Australia for years. She went to graduate school in Australia. She's a very, very intelligent person. And we always spoke in English. Her English is almost unaccented, except that she calls breakfast brekkie because she lived in Australia for too long. Yeah.
Gotta love them.
But I never spoke to her in Mandarin because her English has always been better than my Mandarin.
Yeah.
I went back last year to Guangzhou, and I was meeting a lot of friends, and I saw her, and we spoke in Mandarin for the first time, and I was like, oh my god, like, you would be chided if you went to somewhere outside of Guangzhou and spoke this. Like, her name is Deng Zi, but she pronounces it like Deng Zhi.
Okay.
Like the Z and the Zhi. Actually, that's not her name. That's one of the names that she was considering taking because she doesn't like her real name.
Gotcha. Okay.
But like certain sounds like that are hard to do. I think of another example for in the north, like the standard sort of Chinese has the R Huayin on it. Like the like mun door becomes mar, like you put an R on the end of it instead, and they can't really do that in the South. It's not part of it. It's like how a lot of Americans can't roll their R's because a lot of languages don't have R rolls. You have to kind of learn that. A lot of Southerners can't really do that, and a lot of them are very worked up because if there is no official place, like everything official you do, going to school, getting a job, having an interview, you have to do it in Mandarin, then the native language of the place will eventually die out. Because that means every time someone from that place marries someone else, they almost certainly will not speak the native dialect.
Yeah.
And the native dialect will become more and more something that people only speak at home, and then it just sort of gets shoved further and further out.
Yeah.
And I've met people who are just sort of enraged by that.
Yeah.
Local people who are just sort of, I think Cantonese especially, because they have such a rich culture.
Right.
And they are very proud of their language. A lot of ancient Chinese poetry no longer rhymes in Mandarin, but it does rhyme in Cantonese, indicating that it is closer to a more traditional sort of Chinese than Mandarin. Because Mandarin is heavily influenced by the Dongbei dialects, the northeastern dialects from the Manchus, who were not always considered to be Chinese. They were Sinicized, which is a word I fucking love.
So many questions for you right now, because you're the first person to bring that up, and I there's been talk around this topic, but we haven't actually fully addressed it before in the podcast.
So basically, the Putonghua, the Mandarin pronunciation, is taken heavily from the Manchus.
Gotcha.
Who were they were invaders when they first came. That was the Qing dynasty, the final dynasty. And they were invaders at that time.
So pronunciation and grammar and vocabulary, or just...
Oh, I don't know so much. Probably. I mean, how could it not, right?
And they still... Okay. God. You're bringing up so many areas where I do not have knowledge in, which is good. I am so humbled right now. Manchurian language from Manchuria, which is a region, not a country.
Right.
They're all question marks at the end of what I'm saying right now, right? Okay, so what country? So that would be a part of China now, right? That's the north.
Sanshang, the 3 northeastern states, Heilongjiang, Jilin, and I've been to all fucking 3 of them. Why can I not? Jilin. What is the third one? I'm going to look at a map on my phone. Liaoning. Yeah, Liaoning, Jilin, and Heilongjiang. Right. And they were at various... I'm not... My Chinese imperial history is not 100%. They were, at various times, also subjugated to the Chinese Empire. But it wasn't until the Qing dynasty that those ethnic groups came down and were like, I guess it's us now. Now we're the emperors, right. So please talk like us.
Yeah. You said hey...
Heilongjiang. Black Dragon River.
Around. You said these 3 areas, right?
Yes. Also, in that map, you have part of Inner Mongolia highlighted, which is technically part of the Dongbei, but it's not. It's not. Inner Mongolia is a province of China.
And it's saying there's a Japanese connection here too.
Absolutely. Okay. During World War II, the Japanese went there and turned it into a country that they called Manchuria.
Okay, there we go. And for you history buffs, sorry about that, but we needed to backtrack because yours truly is crap with history, apparently. Yikes! Okay, so that is what Putonghua is based on.
I hesitate to say that because I'm not 100%.
Or influenced.
It was
from,
the current
influenced.
dialect of, yes, what we call Putonghua is very heavily influenced by that. If you go... Some people say that if you go to, like, Heilongjiang, those areas, the local dialect is closer to Mandarin than the Beijing dialect.
Oh, dear God.
So here's the thing, though. Here's a great anecdote.
Yeah.
When I was learning Chinese in Guangdong, in Canton, people were always talking about, like, oh, you're not going to learn, you're going to have a Cantonese accent, it's going to be real bad. So when I moved to Beijing, I was finally like, oh, yes, I finally get to have some, like, real, like, get in there and learn that real Mandarin, have that great environment. So I get off the plane, and I said in my best, crispest announcer voice, I get in the taxi and I say, 你好，我要去八里庄. Balizhuang is a location. I said, hello, I am going to Balizhuang.
Right.
And the taxi driver said, Shabada. I was like, what the fuck is that? in like actual Mandarin, that would be 什么地方? What place?
Yeah.
What place are you talking about?
Nobody said. Yeah.
And it was like, Shabada. I was like, the fuck is that? So I said, very slowly, 我要去八里庄. He was like, oh, 八里庄. Because it was like a very like local Beijing accent, which is not the standard type of Mandarin. And the worst thing is I had a much bigger problem talking to Beijingers in Mandarin than I did talking to Cantonese in Mandarin. Because Cantonese people know their Mandarin is not standard and they will try to meet you halfway. Beijing people think that if you don't understand Beijing language, that it's your fucking fault and your Mandarin's not good enough. But that's not the case.
And I think this is exactly why, and I've heard this from a number of people, that if you go to parts of China where Mandarin is sort of the second language, then it's easier to communicate because they use more of the standard. And I think this is why I can talk to more taxi drivers than I can to Shanghaiese, because there's less of that. It's my language, I'm using it this way kind of thing, and there's more of the standard thing. And there's more flexibility with going back and forth to navigate the communication part of it. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
It's kind of like the difference between a language and a dialect is very critical. We talk about Chinese as being, there's Mandarin and there's different dialects of Mandarin.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But I mean, historically, like they had different scripts.
Yeah.
They say, oh, they all use the same characters, but sometimes they would only use the characters phonetically.
Yeah.
They would have their own language with their own grammar or their own vocabulary, and they would choose the Chinese characters that represent sounds that fit their local language. This is places inside of China that are doing this.
Yeah.
And so now we use the dialects are becoming more and more closer to Mandarin because that's a political necessity. It's institutional.
I only know I've only seen a few countries in Hansa characters, but the ones I've seen so far seem to be only using the characters phonetically. Is that true across the board?
For countries?
Yeah.
Oh, in most cases, yes.
Okay.
The same way that we call France France and not whatever France is in French.
I should know this. I
want to say Francais, but
I want to say Francais, but I'm like, language. Is that the
I'm so bad. Like we call it Spain, not España, because we don't start words with the and we don't have the in in English, so we call it something close to that. We call it Spain.
Fun fact: I was always a step to my Spanish students because they couldn't do Stephanie or Steph.
Yeah,
they had to a step. Yeah. That was completely.
I switched from Josh to Tom because when I was in Heiko, my boss couldn't say Josh. She would say 教死啦. And 教死 in Mandarin means to hang to death.
Oh my god!
So I was like, you can call me Tom. Let's just switch over to that. Please stop telling me to hang to death. That would be great. Thanks.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Tom's my middle name, by the way. I didn't just pull it out of nowhere.
Oh, no, I gotcha. Hey, Stephanie is my middle name. So.
We're getting deep in there. A little character development.
No, it's actually just a fact.
It's like you get the fourth chapter of the book, you finally learn what the hero's name is.
I don't think I would ever claim
The
myself
lead
as a
reveal.
hero, but I'll just
Hey,
take
you're
that
the
for
hero
what
of
it
this
is.
podcast.
Dun,
You're the main
Technically,
protagonist.
you're the guest, so you're the hero this time.
Oh, that's sweet.
So as you were learning Mandarin Chinese, were there ever any moments where you felt like you were losing any of your English?
Occasionally, it is hard for me to think of English words for things.
Oh, you did talk about one presentation.
But that was when I had never done event marketing in America, so I had never talked about this in English.
Okay.
But there are times when I go back to the States, and it's kind of hard for me to think of words because I just don't use them as often.
Yeah.
And I joke about that in Chinese, and Chinese people think I'm joking, and I'm like, no, for real. Like, sometimes, because you don't use it all the time. And your vocabulary is fluid. Your vocabulary it's not a bank where you put your money in there, and it just sits there. Like, there are heavy bank fees. If you're not making deposits, it will be withdrawn. If you're not refreshing it, it will be...
the second mathematical comparison we've made in this conversation.
We're math folk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is a certain... I want to say 1 + 1 = 2-ness to language, and then there isn't. See, now I can't even think of the words.
I think of the reason why I forget English words as similar to, or the same reason why review is the most important part of learning a language, which is something I've convinced myself. I think of it like making sandcastles.
Yeah.
If you just make a mound of sand and you leave it there, it's going to wash away. But this is such a terrible metaphor because it's not true. But maybe clay is a better metaphor. You have to continuously reshape the thing, and you have to reinforce the shape. And you let go of it for a day, you come back, it's going to be droopy, you got to shape it back up again. And eventually it's going to dry and harden into that shape. So many Chinese people, and so many people who are learning foreign languages in the States, those things are like, oh, you can learn 1,000 words in a day, or like something like that. Like, no, you can maybe recite 1,000 words at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Wait a week, it's all fucking gone.
Exactly.
Because that's not how it works.
Yeah.
My most popular, I make videos on the Chinese internet too. And my most popular video with hundreds of thousands of views is about long-term versus short-term memory.
What is it on YouTube?
I'll send it to you. It's on 10-cent video.
Oh. You're a multimedia guy.
Yes. I have a beard, can't waste it.
Really?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Okay.
And the idea is that if you learn something once, it goes into your short-term memory and then you just forget it.
You
have to reinforce it over time before it goes into your long-term memory. And even stuff that's in your long-term memory
can go away.
Can go.
Yeah.
Much more slowly than stuff that you haven't been reinforcing.
And comes back quicker, but it does go.
Right.
That's the whole idea on the Lightner box. Have you ever used that?
No.
Oh, it's, I want to say it was created by a German, but it's...
Lightner.
Lightner box. It's what the time space repetition software is based on.
Yeah.
So it's like it's supposed to remind you to review something just when you're about to forget it.
Right.
Because too soon is too easy, and it's not really going to cement it. But if you do it just before you're about to forget it, then it kind of goes to the next level of remembering the next level, the next level.
There's something when I'm reviewing, I force myself to recall things. A lot of times, people think of reviewing as reading your notes again.
No.
That's not how it works. You have to force your brain to go through the act of recalling the thing.
There has to be
again.
pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the physical exertion of opening a door again in your brain, or like using your hands to force something back into shape.
Yeah.
When you recall it. And the more often you go through that process of recall, the stronger the shape becomes in your mind, and the longer you can hold that shape in your mind, even when you're not focused on it.
All right, so Josh and I are talking about reminders and Lightner boxes and all kinds of language stuff, and I want to step back just a little bit and get meta with you for a second. If you are very interested in recording your own podcast, then by all means, let me give you a month free. What? Yes, it's so true. If you go to Podbean, podbean.com/changing scripts. Don't forget the S at the end there. You'll get 1 month free. That is part of the Podbean affiliate program. I use them for my podcast hosting, and I love them so much. I'm saying this because I know the pain of starting a new podcast and not knowing which reputable companies there are and how to do this, and so many choices. There are so many choices in all of the decisions you have to make, and I want to make that easier for you, especially if you're thinking of starting a language learning podcast. Because, let's face it, there need to be more of us out there in the world. Podbean.com/changing scripts. You'll get a free month and a very easy to use, great customer service, and reasonably priced podcast host. How can you do better than that? Thank you for producing a great language learning podcast in the future. Let's get back to Josh and his language learning story. What languages do you dream in? Speaking of
I
recall.
very rarely remember my dreams.
Yeah.
I am not convinced that all of my brains. Oh,
Yeah.
that's weird. All of my dreams are necessarily linguistic. I think that they're, because I think I had a dream that I only hazily remember this morning when I woke up, and I remember there being communication, but I don't remember what language it was in. It could be that you simply know things, and this is a whole other debate on whether knowledge can be alinguistic, which is a whole other can of worms.
Probably.
Well, it has to be in some way, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, everything you can't speak would just be a lump laying on the
Well,
ground.
and there was a period of time when we didn't have language, so
Right,
I mean,
absolutely.
it had to, yeah.
There are critters who don't have language, and
That's
they still know what to eat and what not to eat. There's a form of information that's held in the brain that's not linguistic.
And there's communication between different creatures of that species,
Yeah.
kind. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. It's possible that I have dreams where I communicate in both English and Chinese. It's sometimes, and I say that because sometimes I forget which language I'm speaking. Like when I first started doing interpreting, which is different from translating and a whole other bag of worms.
Yeah.
Where I would forget which language I was supposed to speak to whom. So someone would tell me something in Chinese, and I would turn to the person I'm supposed to be interpreting for and repeat it to that person in Chinese.
Yeah.
Which is just me not being conscious of,
Yeah.
like, this is the information, I'm expressing the information.
Yeah.
Which language I'm using for that is not as critical. So learning to differentiate them actually was a weird hurdle I didn't expect to go over.
Yeah. See, you not remembering what language they're in when you do remember your dreams, I think speaks to how much of a Chinese identity you have linguistically. Because if you were still, like at my stage, when I have moments of Chinese happening, not necessarily me using it, but it happening in my dreams, I wake up and I remember it. And it stands out more than other dreams because I'm like, oh, that could mean something, or I wonder what was happening there. Do you plan on learning any languages in the future?
That's something I think about a lot.
Yeah.
Because my career is somewhat unstable. I'm making money pretty much exclusively on a freelance basis.
Yeah.
I have a company that I started in Shanghai, but it doesn't require a lot of my time because I'm started with some friends and I'm only in some of the projects.
Yeah.
I make money off of translation, off of making podcasts, which I could do anywhere.
Yeah.
And I did not expect that I would be able to learn Chinese as quickly as I have. And I did not learn it quickly. But it was, I think if I had moved to a country with a more similar language, any Romance language, or maybe even German, I would have picked up a lot faster.
Yeah.
Because there's so many conceptual hurdles at the beginning of Chinese. Like the idea of what a language is and how the spoken relates to the written and how you relate to the language, I think is all very different in Chinese than it is in Western languages in general. If I moved to a place where we could speak a language that didn't have those hurdles, I'm sure I would have learned a lot faster. And now that I've gotten over those hurdles here, I'm thinking, well, Thai is a tonal language that has a funny script. Maybe how long would it take me to learn Thai? Probably a lot less than it would take me to learn Mandarin. So am I wasting my life by not taking my highly mobile career to a different place and becoming trilingual? Right? I think about that a lot. And laziness. I'm fine.
Well, there is something to be said for not being hard on yourself and working too much.
Right, and there's something to be said for not just trying to walk into a store and grab every shiny thing you see on the shelf, right?
That's
like
true.
Sometimes you need to.
Yeah.
I could, doesn't mean that I should.
Yeah.
Unless I have a solid reason to do it.
Thai would be so neat, though. I am a sucker for scripts now, and I wish I knew this years and years and years ago. But looking at their script is just wow.
Look at the Jurchen script. I'm pretty sure I could be putting my foot in my mouth real hard. It's the Manchu script, I believe. And it's fun.
Spell that.
It's kind of like verticals, Jurchen.
Jurchen.
I think that is.
It's from where?
It's from Manchuria, I think. I could have my foot at my ass.
Do you ever go to omniglot.com? I'm sure
I've never even heard of it.
Really?
Really?
Oh my god, it is the best. Listeners, it is the best. They're probably sick of this by now. They've listened to previous episodes. Yeah, the best language comparison site for in English anyway. So it shows you, it gives you just general information. Then it shows you the script. It has different sound clips and different things. Okay, yeah, that is pretty cool. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this looks a little bit like Thai for me. Is this based on Sanskrit too?
That'd be pretty cool if it was.
It would be. See, no, actually part of that looks more like traditional Chinese and part of it looks like Sanskrit. Okay, that's crazy cool. Okay, yeah, listeners, I'll have this in the show notes. Oh, and they go up to down orientation-wise.
Yep.
that looks like poetry, and it could probably even just be like directions for cooking.
It's one of those cool
which would
languages
be
where
called a recipe.
it looks beautiful. Like English poetry doesn't necessarily look beautiful.
No,
it
doesn't.
You can print up English poetry and be like, oh, that's a bunch of little stuff. But
Seen
this is one of
it
those
with
languages
videos,
where
too.
people say that Chinese looks beautiful. I have never ever seen that.
Does.
I don't think Chinese looks beautiful. I think it looks busy. I think some styles of calligraphy, I think look pretty cool. But that I think actually is more intriguing to me than characters are. Yeah.
See, I think it looks part Sanskriti and part Hanzi.
Yeah.
As if I can add
Hanzi, a new word brought to you.
Yeah. I want to blend that word. Damn it. That's very cool. Would you ever learn? Is that still being used?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Especially because now that area of the world sees themselves as being quintessential Mandarin.
Right. Whoa, 1644. Whoa. Okay.
I don't think I could ever learn a language that was not something I could immerse myself in.
Yeah.
I couldn't learn Sanskrit. I couldn't learn Roman.
Yeah.
Which is called Latin. Good job, me. because if I couldn't learn Spanish in school, I definitely can't learn those in school.
Yeah.
I think the tools that I've built are all built around necessity. They're all built around interactivity.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to have that if I ever learn
You
another
do
language.
have a deep discount with one of the 3 scripts for Japanese.
Yes.
Having learned Chinese already. Yeah, so there is that if you're interested in that. But
yeah. And I can understand a little bit of Japanese writing because of that, but it's not always a one-to-one.
Yeah.
So then it's very, very infuriating for people who are learning Chinese as they learn rules like, oh, well, sometimes the left part of the character indicates the pronunciation, or the meaning, and the right half indicates the meaning, his pronunciation. And it's like, yeah, that's true sometimes. And what good is the rule that's right sometimes? What good is the rule if you can't look at a character to know whether or not to apply the rule? And one of the things that's infuriating is there are all these, at different historical times, there were rules that were more or less hard and fast. And then things keep changing and things keep getting added. And now, now it's the Yuan dynasty. And now it's the Manchurian dynasty. And it's now the sort of something that speakers of English deal with without really being conscious of, is that it's a hodgepodge of all this random stuff thrown together.
Oh my God, it so is.
And it's infuriating for people who speak something like Spanish who want to know what the rules are. And there should be rules.
Yeah.
Right. There should be rules, but they ain't. There are some rules that work most of the time, but not all the time.
I love it. Modern English is modern English because of the mistakes that people made as the quote unquote foreigners made as they were learning it.
Yeah.
So it's intentionally butchered to the point of simplifying it, which is just so beautiful to say to people like, English is so proper. No.
Nope.
It is an immigrant's language.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind that in this podcast I interview people who learned Mandarin Chinese as an adult, as well as people who grew up with the language and learned other languages, namely English, because that's how I communicate with them. What questions are missing, or what questions would you add to either of those populations, or both?
One thing that I think about a lot, and we touched on this a little bit, is the in-between space. Like you used the word open, and then we talked a little bit about kuai-di. Like there's this space between Chinese and English that I find really fascinating. Right? Like there's some Chinese words that people who don't speak Chinese use because that's what people here say. Like yuan.
Like when you were talking about the 4 languages.
Yeah. So things like kuai. I had a friend who is mixed, I believe, and she was in a way that often happens. Like people who were not entirely of the culture in question can be more purist about it than people who to them it's just water, the water they swim in, they don't think about it. She was enraged about how foreigners who can't speak Chinese would say kuai when they mean yuan. Like the currency.
Chinese people use kuai all the time.
Right. And she was enraged because she felt like, you can't speak Chinese. Why are you doing this? Why are you using this one little word?
Really?
Which doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't know why you'd be enraged by that. That's how language always goes. That's how it's always a collision. It's always a messy swamp bag of stuff. So that's.
So are you getting at like what people's pet peeves are in their first language?
No,
okay.
I sort of confused the issue.
No. I think I took it somewhere.
But I mean, whether or not people are upset by that, I think is a question that might come out if we talk about this moon space. So there's one is the words that people adopt from Chinese, like kuai or kuai-di.
Right.
Which are 2 different kuais, by the way, pronounced exactly the same tone, but very, very different meaning. So Chinese is scary. There's also the words like open. Things like English words that have taken on completely different meanings because of how Chinese people use them. there are words, and there's a great video by Puppeteer that I should send you. You know Puppeteer?
No.
She's I'm trying to think of she's a Chinese internet celebrity who makes videos that are all very funny. And she did one, I think, last year, making fun of Chinese people who throw English words into their Chinese. Yeah. Which I found very, very hilarious. And I'll try to find that video. I think I saved it.
Awesome.
If you can't speak Chinese, you're not going to get the whole video, but you are going to see the hilarious ways when she starts just throwing English words just in the middle of language. So that's always fun. When I was working in, and I lost this file, I feel real sad about it. I was working in marketing in Beijing. Every time we were in a meeting and a client or someone would use an English word in the middle of Chinese, I would write it down. Yeah. I was going to make like a list of the words that might as well be Chinese because Chinese people always use them. Align was a big one.
Yeah.
Like
internet, I've heard a few times too.
Yeah.
Just in the middle of nowhere. But we do that in English. Oh God! But we have so many loan words that sometimes it's hard to distinguish when we do it. But we do that consciously too. C'est la vie and déjà vu is even a freaking loan word, like completely and utterly. Like there are times that we do that. Yeah. Yeah, but it does stick out because I think the sound differences are probably bigger.
Well, what I'm talking about basically is a central space that is emergent. It's not Chinese, it's not English. It's sort of a combination of the two and something very different. Like we'd have a meeting and someone's like, 那我们今天 cover 了很多，然后你们要去跟那个部门 align 一下，然后我们就 circle back 吧。Like,
what the hell did you just say?
I said like, we talked about a lot. We covered a lot today.
Okay.
You need to go align with that department, and then we'll circle back to it. So like these super business jargon words often don't make the switch to Chinese.
Yeah.
Because in Chinese they're not jargon.
Yeah. I gotcha. Okay, so there's English and there's English. Oh my gosh, how have I not thought of this question before?
That's the space in which I live.
So and there's English language. Huh. And we're going to pretend like there are these pure things. And there is the Mandarin Chinese language. Ha. And in caps, there is.
It's like a third culture kid. It's like a third culture language.
Exactly. Oh. Yes, that's exactly.
Oh no! I knocked the mic over. I'm too excited.
And there is a third language that is sort of like the Venn diagram of the two. I'll change.
And there's lots of different flavors of that.
Of the two,
from this side, from that side, in different settings.
Third culture kid of language.
If you hang out in a cafe, which means coffee shop. Why am I saying the word cafe?
I don't.
For long enough, you will hear people pepper their Chinese with English occasionally.
Yeah.
And it's almost always the same small vocabulary of words.
Cafe, everywhere. I've tried to listen to podcasts, even though I don't understand them in Chinese, and I hear it there. I hear it on the street. I hear it everywhere. I hear English and Chinese and Chinese and English all the time in Shanghai.
And people from both sides make fun of me for doing that.
But people in every language borrow from the other languages.
I think that this central space is...
Ooh, central space.
Nice. It's occupied by foreigners less often.
Yeah.
So it comes off more forced. It comes off more jarring, I think, when a foreigner does it.
But, okay, for example, IE. People use that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody ever says my maid.
Maid, right.
Nobody ever says that. Wait, okay, so I've got the context of it being that third culture kit of languages. So is the question, like, what are the words or phrases that they use in that space? Yeah.
Do you have any third space, central space stuff? Is that a part of your life at all? Do you find that the way you speak English has changed since you learned Chinese? Do you find the way you speak Chinese has changed since you started learning English?
Oh my gosh. That is such a cool question. Okay, so what's your answer?
I find that sometimes I fuck up English grammar because I'll put the Chinese grammar in there. I find that I don't react. I was in Macau a couple days ago, and I was just speaking English to this guy. I always feel awkward when I'm in like Macau and Hong Kong because they're not technically Mandarin-speaking places, even though a lot of people can speak Mandarin there. Yeah. Technically, the local language is going to be Cantonese.
Yeah.
Or if you're in Hong Kong, also English. If you're in Macau, also Portuguese.
Yeah.
But most people in the service industry, at least, can also speak English and Mandarin.
Yeah.
I was talking to this guy in English, and I got a cocktail, and he was like, "Oh, we're about to close," and I was like, "Oh, can I just have one drink?" And he goes, "Can."
Yep.
Because in Chinese it would be 可以, which in English, it would, if you wanted to translate it correctly, it would be sure, of course you can. But directly translating 可以 just means can.
Yep.
The same thing happens in Singapore a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of an example of how I fuck up English grammar, but sometimes I do use a Chinese construction with English words in it.
Yeah.
And then immediately correct myself. I don't know. I was kind of thinking about before the interview today that maybe we would get to talking about examples of how I fuck these things up.
But the can thing they do in Malaysia, and when I was teaching my students from the Gulf, not the U.S. Gulf, but the Gulf, like from Yemen and Saudi and such, teaching my students from there, they kept asking me, why are the local teachers, the Malaysian teachers, why are they using can all the time? And I didn't have an answer for them. I'm like, it's just the local English. I don't know. And now I have more of an idea. But I was like, it doesn't matter. Do you understand what they're saying?
Right.
Which is my response to everything. Is it confusing? Is it confusing you what they're saying? And they're like, well, no, but I just need to know if I need to do that. And I'm like, well, need. If you did that, people would still understand what you're saying. But depends on, are you staying? Are you not staying here? I don't know.
We touched on how we both liked grammar when we were kids. And I talked a little bit about how I feel like my love of grammar was a little bit elitist.
I don't know that I liked it, but I could do it well.
Yeah. I think I mentioned that one of the reasons I liked it was because I could do it well.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of tied into my liking of myself in a way.
I could identify it well. I cannot produce... See, that's the problem I'm having right now with Chinese, actually, is I've got these words and putting them together in a way that communicatively through grammar says things is my absolute number one hurdle right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the way that I attacked that when I was learning Chinese was because I had textbooks that would have sentence patterns in them. Yeah. And I would use the same sentence pattern over and over and over again, but I would switch out the subject. I would switch out the thing. And just to make myself go through that process.
I know that's what I need to do. And I think for me, now knowing how visual I am after struggling with just the words, is I know I need to get out a piece of paper or like a notebook and start doing that. And start writing it out sentence by sentence and switching it. I know that's what I need to do, but I write so slowly.
Here's the thing, Chinese. Though. Yeah. For me, writing was absolutely crucial to learn vocabulary. Yeah. But grammar I learned entirely through speaking.
See, that's not.
I did not practice writing grammar at all.
By far, in every language I've tried to learn, getting that down has been my biggest hurdle, and I've never gotten over it. So if I can do this in the next few months, even in any small way, then it is by far the farthest I've ever gotten in a second language.
Vocabulary through just writing characters over and over again, and then quizzing myself, covering up the pinyin and asking how do you pronounce this, then covering up the character, looking at the pinyin and saying how do I write this, and then covering up everything but the definition and saying okay, what is it? Like those three different directions of forcing myself to do recall. Yeah. That's how I learned vocabulary on the page. But for grammar, I would look at it and get a sentence structure in my head and then use it without writing it down.
I wish I was like that.
And that's, I think, one of the reasons why I can type in Chinese. And Chinese people always talk about how I type really, really fast in Chinese.
I can type words in Chinese.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though.
I can't do sentences clearly.
If I gave you a pen,
yeah,
could you write it in Chinese?
Very few things.
Same for me. I can type you a long-ass email.
Yeah.
I wrote a book. That was mostly I wrote in English and it was translated by someone else. But a lot of the Chinese parts I wrote it.
Yeah.
If you gave me a pen and a piece of paper and told me to write down like a simple sentence, I'd be like, oh, can I use my dictionary on my phone? Yeah. Because Chinese typing, for me, easy. I type in pinyin. Yeah. So I type the sound of it. Yeah. And then I just have to recognize which character is correct. I could not produce that character on a blank page. Exactly. So we talk about language having 4 parts: speaking, listening, reading, writing. Yeah. There is no writing. If you type on a computer, that's not writing. That's speaking plus reading.
I agree. So when you were talking about writing a lot before, writing the characters before, you were talking about typing them.
No. When I was learning vocabulary, I would get a pen and I would do that. And I have books and books and books full of me having written characters over and over again. Yeah. And I cannot write those characters now. Yeah. But I can recognize them. And if I had not written them hundreds of times, I don't think I'd be able to recognize them. I started out tracing and then I moved to flashcards. So I literally at that point only wrote them once. Right. On the flashcard, usually pretty badly. To me, that motor thing of doing the strokes in order and putting the character together. I know that, but I was very greedy for language. I wanted vocabulary. And so for me, that was hard enough. And it took a long time to look at the stroke order. You know, in Pleco, you can see the stroke order. Right. I played the video over and over and over. And I play it like good 6 to 10 times to try to get just that one card right. And then I'd be like, I need content now. I need the listening part and the context and the sentences. And even though I can't produce it, I absorbed a lot of language and I needed to get to a certain point. And now I feel like I need to go back and do the writing. So I think that's when I have to come back and slowly sit down and write sentences. I think that might be the next hurdle.
Oh, that sounds so painful.
I cannot in good conscience recommend that anyone write sentences in Chinese.
I know that. And that's part of this project, also known as trying to get a second language under my belt, is to try things I haven't tried before.
Yeah.
And I know how visual I am from the beginning of this, of learning this, that I know that if I write those out, like I remember in my astronomy class, my first science class after high school, and high school I was completely out, like out in space somewhere, literally, no joke intended to the astronomy thing. But I loved my astronomy class, and I remember as I was taking the test, I could remember like what page of my notes the information was.
Wow.
And not exactly word for word. Like, it's not that. I know there's a word for somebody that can remember, like, a photographic memory. That's it. Yeah. I don't have a photographic memory, but I can remember some things depending on, like, especially if I've written it and highlighted it and circled it and like, wrote questions next to it. Like, I started to write questions to myself in my notes and things like that. Yeah. And those are the things I remembered.
Right.
And that's why I think that this might be the next excruciating step that maybe break my soul. But will probably finally get me to the next level.
I think that's one of the things that was one of the first things that we talked about, which was if you add more levels of meaning, more levels of complexity to something.
Yeah.
I'll speak clearly now. If you add more levels of complexity to something in a way that makes it easier to remember, because there's more hooks attached to it. So when you circle it, when you write questions, you're putting more hooks on that thing that makes it stick more easily in your brain and makes more connections between that thing and other things and makes it easier to recall. For me, I guess the grammar, just the act of using the grammar to form sentences in my mouth over and over and over again was enough repetition for me to get it.
Yeah.
I don't think I personally would have been able to learn Chinese if I had forced myself to write sentences.
No, I
would
agree
never
with
have.
you.
I would never have finished.
And as we're saying this, I'm thinking, oh, maybe I should just type them. But it's not the same. It's not the same. Different.
I have written proposals. I have written essays. I have written a book. I have translated a book. I have written very bad poetry in Chinese. But if you put a pin in my face, I can't.
No.
I would be very hesitant to write even one character without checking to make sure that I'm writing it correctly on my phone.
I know. And when I started to type with pinyin input, I was like, that's it. I'm definitely not going to write Chinese. I know I'm going to exist in a digital space, but I feel like I've been kind of going against this wall of what next for about 5 or 6 weeks now. And I feel like this might actually, I don't know.
And here's the thing though, even if you do it and you realize that's not the thing that you needed to do.
Yeah.
So long as that is the thing that you feel is in front of you, that is the thing you have to do.
Oh, exactly.
Even if the only good thing that comes out of that is you realize, oh, that's not what I was supposed to do.
Oh, totally.
That's still a step you have to take.
At least I'm still studying using the language as I'm figuring out if it is or isn't the right place. Because right now I'm just stuck.
Yeah.
So could it get me unstuck? I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
So many Chinese people told me, oh, you don't have to write characters. You'll never write characters. Why are you wasting all your time writing these characters over and over again? In my heart, though, I felt that I had to do that if I wanted to remember the word.
Yeah.
Now, this is all empirical. It could be that I could have not done that, and I could have remembered the words. But
who knows?
I felt that's what I had to do, and so that was the only thing I could do, because that was the only thing I felt urgency to do. That was the only thing I felt compelled to do. Because if I had not done that, I would not have done anything.
Yeah.
So in a way, you kind of have to follow your compulsion.
I know.
To the next thing.
I'm
agreeing with you here. I'm not saying, Stephanie, why have you not followed your compulsion? I'm saying, yeah, I absolutely agree. Yes. Even though that wouldn't work for me and maybe won't work for you, it is the only next step to take if that's what you feel like you got to do.
I am the sacrificial lamb for slow language learning. Use me if you will, because there's tons of people out there that show you how quickly you can learn a language and how well you can.
You don't, though. Yeah. You don't learn it quick. You don't learn anything quick.
But not a lot of people say that. And show that long, excruciating process.
I think the people who can learn language quickly are on the far end of that long
They are,
tail.
and I'm very impressed, and I wish I had that in my brain, and I don't think most people do. So, here I am, slowly trudging through and encouraging folks to follow me.
How long have you been learning Mandarin? I can't believe I haven't asked you that before.
The first 9 months were more of playing with tools, because I thought I was going to make language learning tools.
Right.
Apps and all that kind of thing. So it was learning about the language and playing with the tools. So I really don't count that. So I'd say probably a year, with the main focus being on reading. Right. And I made leaps and bounds with reading last year. And then after my HSK3 test, that's when I kind of fell off.
You took HSK3 after studying for less than a year.
A year. I'd say self-studying, but honestly, I used a lot of people's resources and the HSK standard course books, which are disturbingly good. And I'm very critical of language textbooks.
I looked for a while to try to find standard, official HSK books. I couldn't find any.
What?
Guess
What?
I'm just real bad at internet.
No. I'll give you the name of this series. It's really, really good. One of my coworkers who just took and crazy aced HSK 6 was the one when I first started studying HSK who recommended them, and I really like these books. Well, HSK is not speaking, right? HSKK is the speaking test. HSK is the reading, listening, and writing aspect, and writing is very loose until you hit level 4.
Right. So here's the thing about HSK. I had not taken the HSK. After I had been learning Chinese for a year, I could not have passed HSK 3. I am 1,000% sure. So your first year has been much more productive than my first year was.
But there's different things. You were using the language, and this does not.
Right. So this is a commentary on tests.
Yeah.
You know Hannah Lund. Did you interview Hannah Lund?
I did, yeah, for a different podcast.
She's real great. She got her master's degree at a Chinese university.
I know.
She knows more Chinese than I do. She could probably has passed a higher HSK than I could.
I think she said she took 5. She'd probably a 6, though. I mean, her university classes were in Mandarin, right?
Oh, yeah. Her thesis was on Chinese poetry, I think.
Exactly. So she's reading and writing and listening, like everything in like higher level Chinese.
Yeah. So I hang out with her a lot, and we talk in Chinese sometimes. And this is something we talk about, is the differences. And mostly I bring it up because I feel embarrassed that I'm making a living as a translator and her Chinese is better than mine. I think if you gave me HSK right now, I could pass 4. Don't think I could pass 5. And I've passed 4 to start taking like non-language based university classes, and I think 5 to start taking
4,
like
4 or 5.
Or is it?
It's
5?
lower than you think, so it's probably 4.
4, and then if you want to start
taking, but it
taking,
probably varies between programs and like bachelor's versus master's kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, they generally split it between, but basically for cultural things, you have to pass the 5. I don't think I could pass 5. I don't think I could, because the reading speed that you need and the specific vocabulary, and then 6, they have just so many idioms. It's insane.
Exactly.
Things that I have never come across.
Yeah.
I would maybe come across a couple idioms in some like flowery marketing language, but I can just look them up. I don't have to have them all in my brain the whole time.
Exactly.
So I in a way, if I were not in China, I would have to depend on those tests to sort of prove that I can speak Chinese and that to have some sort of thing to study.
You don't need to take the test unless you need to prove your language ability for any sort of economic or studying reasons.
I'm so worried that I'm going to go back to the States and I'm going to have to try to get a job based on my Chinese ability.
Oh, then you would need to take it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that terrifies me because I've been making my living off Chinese for years now.
But you're clearly good at studying language. And like I said, with the course books, they're really good at prepping you for the test.
Okay. That's good.
So you'd be fine.
Okay.
You'd be fine. I mean, it'd be hard as hell.
Right.
But
I don't
because it's such a different. It's so
it's
different than just
it'll be
using
hard
it.
as hell. It's not
because it's a test.
Right. Yeah.
You're not talking to the computer.
Right.
Well, you can take a paper based or you can take a computer based.
Right.
And I like the paper based so much more because I could write in the margins as I was trying to do it within the time frame, but I could be goofy for a second.
Yeah.
But the test is on this really awful. Well, the one I took in China, it was on this really awful old colored screen, and it was just pick the answer, and there was no scrap paper, and it was just. Right. I'm never taking the computer
test again. Do you have to type into it, like Chinese?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, though, like Chinese input systems, even if you're just typing in pinyin, different input systems work differently.
Yes.
So they give you different suggestions.
Yes.
Different keys do different selections, and the selections available to you. So if I walked into a test, like learning the input system would be the first hurdle to even taking the test.
I've only taken 3, and the writing, they call it the writing section, was basically pinyin input for a word. And then you select it. So that part wasn't bad at all. And the questions at the same time.
But at the same time, I can't not take the computer test because I can't write with the pen.
Then you would.
If you want me to take a test, I need that keyboard.
I know, because you do get dinged heavily. I'm told by people who take the paper test for your handwriting and your stroke order.
I couldn't even pass an English test if handwriting was.
Yeah, so you probably would have to grin and bear it for the ridiculousness of the format. And I did an entire video, literally half an hour after it, talking about the ridiculousness of the format and the different and the test room and all kinds of things. Thank you so much for coming on Changing Scripts today.
It's my pleasure to be here. I am always excited to talk about these sorts of things because this is kind of my life. Language, in a large way, is your life. It's how you interact with the people around you in a lot of ways. And it's not often that there's someone who is as deep in language as you are, who has lived here for a while and is also learning it and can talk about these sorts of issues that we're facing all the time, these things that are important to our lives. Well, I almost feel like I am a third culture kid, and I'm appropriating the word by using
adult.
that. But
we should make up I like making up TLA.
Third language kid? Yeah.
Third language adult. TLA. Oh,
TLA.
3-letter acronym. That one is already taken.
Aww.
Especially in education. Shit. We'll think of one.
We'll think of one.
I'd like
this is a space that I never thought that I would be in.
Yeah.
And that has all this fascinating stuff going on inside of it. And so I really love talking about it. Thank you for inviting me.
The avalanche of thank yous, grazie mille, and shesheni are coming up right now. Thank you so much to our guest, Joshua Ogden-Davis, who has not only volunteered so much of his time for this one episode, but he has volunteered to come back, and we are definitely going to take him up on that in the future. Number 2 is Damon Castillo, brilliant musician based in San Luis Obispo, California. Woo woo! It's where I went to school. It's where I did my undergraduate work and where a little bit of my music heart continues to be, thanks to Damon's music. You can find Damon's music, including his newer album, on damoncastillo.com. It'll be down in the show notes. Last but not least, thank you, the listener. It's because of your listening to the Changing Scripts podcast and also watching the Changing Scripts YouTube channel that I continue to make these recordings. I really appreciate all of the feedback that you give, all of the listens, and all of the recommendations that you do to folks that you think might be interested in this. So please do pass on the podcast. We really, really appreciate it. All right. Thank you so much. More soon.
Membership fees apply after free trial. Cancel anytime.
You know what's wrong with health and fitness? You weaponize it against yourself. Why didn't you go to the gym today? You're so lazy. Why did you eat that? You have no self-control. Stop it. At Beachbody, we think training and caring for your body in a way that works best for you should be about loving yourself. Let us help you without all the judgment. Here's how. Go to beachbody.com to claim your free membership and start feeling great.